what the NB Gospel Music Hall of Fame is?
New Brunswick.
New Brunswick?
Background of what they're looking at, because there's quite a bit of detail on it that you're not going to catch. Okay? Well, you're more than welcome.
I did a whole bunch of agendas, I don't see them.
Here's the breakdown. Now remember, you have a municipal building fund,
That's
so
official.
usually overages will come out of that when you've had a major investment. I would say the pavement alone
Right.
at the transfer station will even you out probably. We were hoping not to go over the 40. We budgeted 20,000 more to try to stay within, but better than the 20 we were taking.
Yeah, during our budgetary process, is it possible to take out our consistent prices for like crystal paper
No.
clips and stuff like that? Because it alters from year to year.
Well, what do you mean take it
Well,
out?
I mean, if from this thing we're taking some of the supplies for the building, those are consistent prices, so that when we
Well,
look at,
they were about 20,000. That's why I said
Okay.
it was impractical
Right.
to continue to do the 20
Okay, so
because
we'll-
those were pretty much our fixed
right, if we
expenses.
raise 40, we basically have 20 to spend on new projects
Right.
and stuff like that. Okay.
That's how it shook out last year.
Yeah.
when we were looking at it.
Share with your husband? Yes.
Evening.
Thank you. You're welcome.
And the other way that happened, Lenny, was nickels and dimes. Lots and lots of nickels.
I have your map. Still no white
Anytime soon? Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Because he asked for some documentation and I had, if you want. Yeah, you know, not.
You remember in those days, put your jacket on the roof so that it never sit on it.
Good idea.
You really think they would deny? See yesterday.
So that's a move to go, you could go in. This is, John, this is our rules of order. NDA, just done there. And this is our new updated application, one size fits all application. What's that? No, this is for the zoning board of adjustment.
Okay.
When we just had a discussion, we said, oh, you've done those, could I have a copy?
All right, no problem. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay, so, let's see.
How are we doing? We're good. How you doing? Pretty good.
I talked with Randy.
It is,
She wanted to.
Yeah.
So that's a good time to encourage. And so he's slowly getting used to being independent with all
I was
life.
trying to speak to him yesterday, but he was getting ready to put stuff up with my windows, so I didn't want him to
That's a big time for him, my goodness. Learning all the ins and outs, making good decisions. That's a big step. Yes, yes. Yeah, we were wondering about that. Yes.
I'm such a stranger.
I wish more and more names to this.
I know the faces, and I know a lot of the names from off the top of my head, matched up, so when I see someone, I can't automatically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Are you meeting Monday instead of Tuesday next week or not?
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We haven't had the
Oh,
discussion
okay,
yet.
okay. We're not sure yet.
Well, we usually do it the day before, not the day,
Yeah.
day early, not a day
Yeah,
late.
yeah.
We'll see. It might be a scheduling problem.
I'm not sure.
Something that was used in combination with that.
Well, I know a box, why, is it? Depends on who sits on that head. Oh, you can watch you sit with it.
No, that machine skips. Tom put it aside.
Hey. Well, they might be in the signature. I haven't got the signature.
Oh, okay.
Again, we do, maybe they'll announce it. We'll leave it early anyway. Well, we're gonna go keep that together and see what we can. The base side, what the governor reported, it's 3 or 4 nights with the 7 o'clock, the base. Governor,
One night. I'm not sure if that's the one tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's nice, that's great.
the others for,
Both of your girls?
Congress.
Yes.
What?
Your daughter?
I think it's 3 nights. It's like 7 o'clock on Gen 9.
So is that live? Awesome.
No, they were back from No?
This is on the Boston campaign. This is on the Boston campaign.
These minutes are just, September 12th. This is non-public, we have Claudia.
That was the one I moved out here. They've been sitting in the computer, waiting for signature on my Claudia.
So it's just, they work?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Where's the Yes, and they're also in a sealed envelope.
Okay,
The 9184.
okay.
Yeah, okay.
I usually give you something. Just in case.
Joy. That was mine, yeah. They have fun with
Oh, yeah, it'll be a signal thing, just so you knew what it was when you bumped into it.
Oh, no, I told, I've already on Facebook. Solid stuff.
Cheryl? I didn't see a copy.
Okay.
Lawrence, anything jump out at you?
No.
I'll look through it.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
Posted there.
town fees and all that, I watch. I know, I just wanted to hear how things are going.
Yep.
You've seen it, yeah.
When he's gone out a couple of times, he changes on the whole.
Thinking about it, wondering if I should have my first screen again this year.
Maybe that was last year.
Remember we've been doing it every year or
Seems to be okay. Two oversights and one seems to be okay, which always come on. So, we'll see. Life is busy. She cuts hair, doesn't she?
Thank you.
yeah, sure, there's
Was not W then? This is his time of the year where they don't come out, because it gets lost to rules.
Because right here, come down to the field, turn on each way, corner.
Next Sunday?
And you hit the lawn. Yes. Nope, over there.
Well, I'll keep it here because there's stuff to pay attention to. Thank you. No, that's my copy.
No. Said we could go, what, 80? 4,
Yeah.
Jody? Yeah. Yeah, you see this scuttlebutt is, they're gonna be shaving some people. They're gonna be taking everything out of square with too.
Good is better than bad.
Casing up and don't bring out a few pieces. They're gonna take root, split it in two, and then shave some off the road, and that's how it's supposed to look back to a smaller portion every root. So everyone will get their own fruit. You can see technically, it's extremely notable. All the roots are supposed to finish. If you scream it, no, then you can pass this out.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not to be included in that.
When that's gonna start, that's just the gossip.
I don't understand.
I actually did this, Tom Thompson was
Oh,
Oh, so it's all done.
the survey. I don't know.
okay, well, this
I was
was,
thinking, so they tried to make it mean 12 and a half.
okay, so that was us.
About letters and marketing.
I don't know, maybe so.
Okay, so I'm trying to think, what do I do? Now, maybe, what do they want done right now?
Once.
Okay,
But I did finish, we did before he brought it over.
okay.
It was the online survey.
No, I'll bring it up and then the reference, it'll get in this minute, so.
Right. Pretty much, because the guys have been to all, I've been to those and the guys do these and so I must be straight, universal waste, efficient site management and solid disposal options. Is our priority.
Did you see the mail? Break this down.
I'll bring it up to him again. Actually, what I'll do is, if we can set up a time and come in on whatever Monday or Wednesday, I'll have him try to bring it in.
I did mention it to him last week again. Claudia, you don't call it a stipend anymore for the fire department? Okay, if you could just,
I don't pay it as employee, and that is really where we were trying to go at that point.
right.
I think that's subject to move at this point.
Well, I remember the reason that we had to alter stuff because we got
And it never did, because I think it was Matt who took a break on,
right.
after categorizing employees.
Okay.
Say, I don't know that that would be a problem. The specific reason it was on that group.
Right. But the problem we had the last time we're covered on it.
Right. Well, it's less likely to happen.
Right.
His father was implicated. Why did it take him a year?
Seven for the budget committee?
Yeah, 6:45. But I think they expect to wait till 7.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe we could see out.
Set Lawrence? Thank everybody for coming. So you're all aware of it, we do have a budget meeting, so I'm gonna try to get this meeting done by 10 to 7 if I can. As it always is, when we get to public comment, just keep it polite. If you have a question or concern about a contractor or somebody we do business with, or an employee, give it to us in writing and we will respond.
And before we get started, I guess I'll say, I want to rescind my bid when I bid on the amount of money that we're appropriating for the Elm Street bridge budget.
Okay,
I want to,
You vote or
I want
you vote?
I'm voting to rescind my bid.
You bid?
well, we make a,
Well,
let's
my vote.
Yeah, you vote.
consider it a motion first and just, yes.
And so I'm going to leave it totally up to you two. I don't want anything to do with it whatsoever. There's a conflict of interest, so I'm going to leave it up to you two to do whatever you decide to do.
Okay, the only reason I'm gonna back up a little on this, Lawrence, is that you were involved in it at the end of last meeting, and Lenny voted on that side of it. Lenny, are you willing, there's no motion on the table quite yet, but are you willing to forego the vote that was made the other night? Because I'll make a motion.
Certainly.
Okay, so I've just put a motion on the table. Is it any action that was taken on the Elm Street Bridge repair project at last week's meeting is considered null and void? That's the motion, so.
The second.
Second, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then your other side of it is that you're recusing yourself from any consideration involving
Anything to do with
Limerick steeplechase.
Right.
Okay, all right. Okay. Oh, all right, now let's get back where I was here. Manifest signature folder, we did all that. Pledge of allegiance, agenda review, acceptance of the minutes. We got lots of minutes. Go back to the earliest when we had a non-public that was not sealed. Or what, the non-public was sealed. There was a request for an addendum. I'm trying to figure out how,
We had the regular meeting,
right,
then the non-public that weren't,
that weren't sealed.
right, and then
Okay,
your work session.
okay. And
I
there-
think we're sealed.
September 12th.
Oh, the September, I didn't
2016.
realize they were in there.
Yes.
Yes, the September, I didn't realize the September 12th were in there.
okay, and I think it references.
Because that envelope is sealed.
Right, right.
That recently came up as a topic.
It's a letter, in one of the folders we had, there was a request that I don't know if it stipulated in a set of minutes that we had that meeting and it was sealed, but there was no list of who was present.
I think there was.
Okay, but the addendum, the request that I got is that we go back and backdate, go back and put an addendum in those minutes simply stating who was present at that particular meeting. And I'm assuming if we're gonna put it in the minutes that it's perfectly legal to announce it now, so it can be referenced in these minutes, is that we're going back to the sealed minutes of September 12th and adding the names Henry Spencer as chairman of the select board, Lawrence Edwards, Lenny Espie was present, Claudia Lamphier, and Cheryle Feirick were present. So that will be stipulated into tonight's minutes. Okay. But as far as that's all done, so then we had a non-public on October 25th that was, they were not sealed.
No, the non-public, I think, was the 18th.
Well, I have the ones of the 18th. They weren't sealed because it ended up basically not being a meeting, a non-public meeting. So the 25th is the one I'm looking for. There we go. September 20th. And that was a meeting that we had with the chief of police, so those have been signed. And, those have been signed, so the October 25th, they were signed by all three of us, so a motion to accept the minutes of October 25th is written.
That's this one. Yeah.
That's seconded by Lenny Espie. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And then we had minutes of a non-public session, listed as a non-public session, but my estimation, I gotta admit, it was not actually a non-public. These were presented at the meeting, work session that we had last week. And I've got two signatures on that, but a motion to accept the minutes is written from the work session, I'll call it, of Tuesday, October 18th. Motion to accept those minutes, Lenny?
Make that motion.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Those were, did you mean not to sign that one, sir?
No, I didn't agree with it, so I didn't sign it.
Okay. Anything particular you didn't agree with?
Yeah, I stated it at our last meeting.
The one issue you brought up at our last meeting has been changed. It's where there was a term yelling used, it was changed to announcing. But others, you still don't want to sign it?
No?
Okay. We have two signatures. So all those in favor? Aye. Lenny?
Aye.
Aye, okay. And then we have the minutes of...
Maybe in the future, Henry, get Claudia or Cheryle to type up the minutes.
Oh, they generally do.
Yeah, but I mean, you were both had your egos running there, so I think your minutes could have been a little bit biased.
Do you want to discuss it more?
No, I'm just saying in the future, it may be worth having them do it, so we don't.
Well, I gotta admit that I don't think that these minutes were biased. They were
Well, I mean,
exactly what happened. But we've already accepted them. We have minutes of our regular meeting of October 4th. And a motion to accept those minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Seconded by Lenny Espie. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. And we have a weekly manifest of $45,832.13. I make a motion we accept the manifest as presented. Yes?
I'll second that.
All right, seconded by Lawrence Edwards. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So now we get to public comment. Any? None, in the back. I'm sorry, just please state your name, whether you're a resident.
Mike Howland, Bucks Road. Henry, we had a discussion last Wednesday, and I thought I had a bit of a solution for a problem you guys had. I showed you something on Know the Territory, the training guide there.
Yep.
I get a little further on that. That's kind of a case summary where they lead you to.
Yep.
And what happens is it looks like whatever we do on a person's private property actually has to have a fee. If it costs $200 to do something, the town needs to charge it so that taxpayers aren't burdened. That's essentially what I got from it. I'm not a lawyer, so you can check into it. And this is kind of another follow-up in regards to the culvert situation, which I don't really, there's an overlap between planning and
Okay.
the selectmen. I certainly, as a member of the planning board, I certainly don't want to get into it.
Okay.
I prefer to leave it with you guys, but there's the corresponding 236.13 RSA, and
Okay.
that little bit there might help with that.
All right, I'll get copies of this and run them by you too. I'm gonna get them over to you too. Let's get stuff out of the way here. Anything else on public comment? Eric, I'm gonna go to the back, but because I think I know what you want to talk about.
John Meisner. Hey, I do appreciate, Lawrence, you stepping up and reclusing, you know, your bid. But I just want to ask the board, you know, we need a little bit more transparency on that, and I'm going to focus on Lawrence. You know, on the portico on August 9th, the board voted to get it done, and it was a vote with the whole board, and Limerick Steeplejacks again got awarded that bid. I know it's $990, it's not that much, but still, he voted, and it's his nephew's company. A little bit more transparency, because what it does for me is the lack of trust of the board.
Yep. Okay. I guess
Do you
that's,
want me to comment on that?
I don't care what you do.
Oh.
I just,
Well, I made my
just-
statement.
what?
I made my statement.
Okay,
I don't
that's
want
fine. No, that's
anything to do
okay.
with it whatsoever.
I know, but I
That
just
was
didn't.
conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. He was my nephew when he done that protocol also.
Yeah, I
And
know.
I should have excused myself on that, and I never even thought.
No problem.
okay.
So I apologize for doing that.
Okay. Apology taken.
Thank you.
Eric Jones, Stillman's Lane. Several weeks back, I had offered to sort of call around about what other towns do as far as how they go about awarding the Boston Post cane. I talked to the town administrators in Freedom, Espie, and Wakefield, two of whom have done it recently. Freedom, I think it's been a little bit longer, but and basically what you've got in front of you is sort of the written version of what they told me. None of those towns have anything specifically written down. It's just sort of a this is the way we've always done it sort of situation.
Yep.
Just some sort of comments on the various different bullet sections, you know, determining the oldest person. Ossipee is sort of in a unique situation since the likelihood is it's going to be somebody living at Mountain View Community, and they get assistance from the administrator there, Howie Chandler, who sort of tells them, this is the oldest person living here, they're this old. If you've got anybody else living in town older than that, which is usually unlikely, usually the person gets it in Ospey is 105, 106. Freedom, the town administrator there has lived there basically all of her life and sort of knows who the oldest person is. Wakefield, it's sort of a similar situation. They kind of already knew who the oldest person is. It's a little harder to determine than it used to be back when the town has, you know, when towns had resident taxes, the resident tax roll listed birthdays. So it was really easy to determine who the oldest resident of the town was. Now, unless somebody fesses up to their age, you kind of have to do it based just on, oh, I think so-and-so is, and this is how old they are. There really isn't anywhere where you can go look up someone's birthday that's public record.
Right, it doesn't stipulate how, but number 3, the final determination regarding who gets it.
Right, most of the other towns, basically, the town administrator says, we believe that so-and-so at the age of blank is the oldest person, and the board says, we vote to give it to blank.
Okay.
You know, it's pretty...
Yeah, I mean, I did get a chance to read what you put out, and number 8 was the one that I ran into that, the only thing is I think where you have that 1 month period of respect will be observed before beginning the process of choosing the next cane is someplace in there I put to take back the cane into the town's possession.
Right.
I mean, that, I would just stipulate that after that month, that's what's gonna happen, is we're gonna take it back, because it could be another 3 months before we award it, but in a month, the town is gonna ask for the cane back from the family.
Well, it's a replica, do we need to do that?
Yes, because I didn't think we were handing out a replica.
Unless you want to buy a new replica for
Well,
every person.
well,
I mean,
okay, yeah, just,
The other towns that Wakefield didn't know about the replicas, so they actually have a pin that they give to the person, which because it's a lower cost item, the person does get to keep, or the family gets to keep. Freedom gives out a replica, but the replica comes back. Ossipee has a replica, but this is the first time they've awarded the replica. I believe the understanding is that the replica will come
Right.
back as well.
yeah, because under number 4, you have to
Right,
get,
and that
the
was
cane
based
and a
on-
certificate. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
you know, and the idea being that the certificate would be something that the family could keep.
Right, and the other thing you put in here was having a plaque at the
Right.
office to list who did it.
Right, who's received it historically, and I've started doing some research on who
As best
various
you can.
people are. Some of the older town reports note who the people were at the time.
Okay,
And we figured out, a way was suggested to me by somebody else in town, of a way to do the plaques such that if you had 1, 2, and 3, and you determined, oops, there was somebody between 2 and 3, you don't have to have the plaque re-engraved, you just move one down and
Right.
put another one in.
yeah,
So, and then we thought that we could potentially do a plaque that has a photograph of the cane, so that people could see what the cane looks like. A couple of the other towns talked about putting their cane on display in like a case, and they've all sort of said they were gonna do it, and then kind of thought about it and gone, ooh, except that it's kind of valuable, and if everybody knows it's there, the next thing you know, someone's smashed in a window to smash the case that the cane is in.
right,
So the impression I got from the other towns that still have theirs in the town's possession was that they were probably not going to
display it,
display it, just out of fear of it getting stolen,
okay.
unfortunately. And then the only other thing that, it hasn't come up with any of the other towns, but that if you offered it to someone and they said, no thanks, none of the other towns have had that happen at this point, but we seem to have a tradition of it lately in Effingham. The past several people it's been offered to have said, no thank you, I don't want it. The way one town administrator says is, yes, some people think of it as the death stick. So we sort of wrote in the, okay, if the oldest person says, I don't want it, what do you do? And we sort of said, well, offer it to number 2 and then potentially number 3, and if you get that far down and they don't want it, just set it aside and take a look at it again when the person who technically would hold it passes away or moves out of town.
Yeah,
So,
under number 2, accurately determine oldest resident, soliciting nominations through postings and stuff like that to try to get interest. So the assumption on this being is that if somebody didn't sign up to participate in the Boston Post cane awarding process, is that we're not going out trying to find the oldest person, we're trying to find the oldest person who wants to be part
well,
of the program.
I guess we would, if we know who we think the oldest person is, I would say offer it to them. If you know what I mean, it was more of a, since we don't have an easy way to determine it ourselves, let people make suggestions, but if we happen to know of someone who probably is the oldest resident, even if no one comes in and says, oh, I think so-and-so should get it, I would think we would want to offer it to them.
I'm a little leery about having something based upon an inaccurate or incomplete knowledge of the
That's a great
residents of
lead
town.
in for what I wanted to say. If I'm named in there, I haven't seen that, but I'd just as soon not be the last call before the selectmen. Perhaps the committee could stay in place.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to sort of, you know.
It did occur, I did some thinking about this, and I put it in the action folder, but hopefully we'll bring it up with the board tonight. Looking at it is anybody that wants to participate, and I'm basing the age upon somebody's social security. You know, I consider that proof enough of somebody's age, but
I mean, I don't even know that we would require documentation. If somebody comes in and says, well, I know so-and-so is 93,
well,
I tend to take them.
the town may not require documentation, but if you find yourself in a situation where somebody feels they're older than somebody else who's getting the cane, then they're gonna want documentation.
Well,
So
right,
you need to
and-
lay out the guidelines on what's
Right.
gonna be considered documentation prior to the process. But it's early innings on this, and this helps a
Right.
lot.
You know, I mean, I know that if they're a registered voter, their date of birth is in the voter registration list, the supervisors at the checklist. It's not, that part isn't public record, but we could certainly ask the supervisors to look at it and say, okay, of these 2 people, this one's the older, we're not gonna tell you the birth date, we're just gonna tell you they're the older individual. But that only works if they're a registered voter.
Right,
You know
okay.
what I mean? Which you can be a resident and not be a registered voter.
All right, well, I mean, the concerns have been brought up, and
But anyway.
moving it along, thank you.
Real quick, we don't have to invent the wheel on that one. You can just go to the census. On an inventory, they have to say who's in the house and their age.
Not
I don't know how in the
everybody takes that
census,
one.
I don't
Then
think
they
in the
don't get the
census.
cane?
They don't get the cane.
No cane for you.
Penalty
As I
and
said,
no cane.
as I said, it's a question that needs to be answered. part of what's moving on. Eric has this, there's something in the action folder that relates to it, and we'll start putting it
Yeah,
together.
here's
And
the
we do
replica.
actually have the duplicate.
What is it, a tube?
Yes. Very expensive piece of cardboard.
Potato candy.
Okay, anything else with public comment? Seeing none. I did talk to the police chief. We had a rather long discussion with the police chief the other day, and he was busy this evening, so he's not going to be coming in on planned discussion, but Town Administrator Claudia Lamphier wanted a chance to address the board.
I do. I'm getting increasingly concerned about this 91A probing. It seems to be a growing and continuing issue. With 2 public meetings, uncomfortable meeting with Mr. Edwards, and Mr. Edwards came in last week and said he found it hard to believe that I'm being requested, it's being requested of me to send out 15 or so tax cards a week. Not every week.
But that, you're
I don't
considering
understand
that,
why that's an issue at all.
you're considering that a 91A request because it's public records. Right.
And that's really it. This is not a town policy. This is a law. If it's a document that's public, I have to present it immediately. If I have it immediately, that's what it says. I can't lag time just because I don't want to do it or I don't have time to do it. If it's a document that I don't have, and that's been the problem. If we've had a problem with 91A, it's a problem that I don't have something in the office to give. That's when you have the 5 days. I've gone over on my 5 days. So I don't understand why I would be approached about, can I prove I do 15 tax cards a week? I don't think anything of sending a tax card out. With the responsibility inherent in the position I have, to approach me about why I'm sending out a tax card is insulting. In the same conversation, cameras came up last week, and Mr. Edwards was bringing up a system that he's aware of, and it sounds a lot more like surveillance than security. So if and when there's a move to start going into private areas with cameras, I want an opportunity to find out how that goes prior to any move being made by the board.
Okay.
So, that's the way I'm leaving it. 91A, I'm going to comply to the law. If and when I feel we're in a situation that needs to be addressed in an individual manner, as I did when I made the form years ago, when it served its purpose, I do know when we're in a bad situation.
Sure.
And in fact, I have 2 requests for a document that wasn't here, that have been outstanding for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I don't imagine I'm going to be brought into court for that. I will handle 91A according to the law.
Any response from the board?
Yeah, I didn't go in and ask for your 15 emails. I just asked if you have a copy of those emails.
And it's,
Which was, you said you didn't say?
you said there weren't enough, that
I was just
when you
asking a
ride
question.
around town, you can't see that there are enough properties for sale for me to justify saying I send 15, perhaps 15 out in a week. I just gave away a property card. We have residents that are encouraged to check their property card to make sure they're correct. We have appraisers, we have census bureaus, we have lenders, we have attorneys closing loans. They call, they write, they stop by. And what difference does it make?
I didn't say it made any difference. I was just asking if you kept the emails when you,
No.
okay, that was just a question that I asked. It wasn't that I was looking for emails, I was just asking what you done with them.
So I'm assuming that the form that we currently use, there are those times when you cannot meet the immediate obligation when that's availability. And one of the primary purposes for the form is to give the town a record of when the request was there. If it's going to be a contentious issue, it's good for the town to have the documentation, but giving a property card is something that you can do immediately. There's no reason to keep a record. And as you, I think what you said is that you're very well aware of those issues when somebody comes in with 91A that could
I
be
am.
problematical for the town.
I am.
And
I've begged to put this issue to bed time and time
Yeah,
again.
okay.
I've tried to be as diplomatic as I possibly can.
Okay.
I don't need instruction on this. I'm all set.
Right.
Henry? I know it's not public comment, it has to do directly with what you're speaking about.
Okay.
I made a request for something that was not available in this office.
Yep.
I'm not gonna identify what it is, but it should have been in this office, and you guys can talk to Claudia to figure out why I still haven't received it,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Okay, unless there's a privacy issue, I don't see a problem with asking what is it that is not available. I mean, is it something the office can't deliver, or?
It was Mr. Edwards took home the bid.
The bid?
I had 2 requests to see the bid from Limerick Steeplechase.
Okay,
It wasn't here. 2 written requests.
where is
It's
it?
back.
It's back now? Okay, so now, next time that party comes in, you can give it to them, okay. Anything else you want to bring up on that?
No, it's that.
Okay. Any comment from the board? No. All set? Okay. Looking at, going through proposed work session, weekly discussions, reviewed road budget, we have about $10,000 in our road contractor, and I'm assuming that that's gonna get used up in the final grading. I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit. We did have some washout problems on Molly Philbrook Road, and it's a question of the amount of money that we spent solving that particular kind of problem is the same kind of problem in the last summer has been fairly high. I don't see where we have the money to do the grading and to really fix that. But the other side of it is we're getting washout as you're heading up the hill towards Simon Hill on the left-hand side. It's washed out pretty badly. If we don't do something in there to slow down spring runoff water and stuff like that, I think we could have a real problem in the spring. So rather than spend a lot of money grading that road and stuff, I don't know if this works, but Lawrence, if we put in a couple of the larger stone barriers just to slow the speed of the water down, we have $10,000 left, and it costs about that much to do the grading that we need to do. So that's the end of our budget right there. But do you think that would help that? Have you had a chance to go up and look?
Yes, I've seen it, yeah.
Yeah, so do you think that would help? Because I don't see, it's cost us about, every time he goes up and does this, it's costing about $4,000.
Well, the thing is we ought to do the main roads, get those graded and see where we have
If you have anything
money,
left
if we have
over.
money left over, and then go over.
Okay,
Put some riprap in.
I think that's a sensible way to go about it, but at the same time, if we don't do anything, you understand spring runoff better than I do. I mean, I know what rain does, but when you have spring runoff, you can get a lot of water running down the shoulder. And in the spring, we might not be able to get a truck up there to put a couple of little, and I'm not talking across the road, just the section that's washed out, a couple of little water bars up in there just to slow the process down until we can get up and do grading in the spring.
Well, we could go up and just put the riprap in just that section,
Right.
not do the whole road.
Right.
We don't need to grade it, because it's just a season, the road we close in the winter.
Right, yeah, I understand. I'm just worried about what happens in the spring. So if we do the grading and then we run out in the grading and we come out, with $0, then we have to come up with what you think might, I mean, I understand this is off the top.
Well, we have money in there for materials, so we could do that.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so, we did get a particular mention from, in a letter mentioning Molly
Yeah, I see
Philbrook
that.
Road. It's not that I'm unaware of it, it's that, I don't necessarily want to spend $3,000 on that road, you know, a week or so, or, you know, half a month before we close it anyways. But we do need to do something to protect it this spring, okay. And I will, get in touch with Battles on Wednesday about grading schedules.
Hey, Henry?
1 second. Yes.
Hey, just a little heads up. What you're referring to is called check dams.
Yep.
And we did do that on Townhouse Road. And we found out that on really severe runoff, it blows it out. So we stuck hay. The engineer said bales of hay work just as well.
Okay.
And that might be a cheaper way out.
We wasn't talking check dams, we were talking about filling the trench in with riprap.
Well, I was trying to stabilize it for as little money as possible until spring. Until we get into our next budget cycle. We just don't have the money right now to maintain that road for 1 month's worth of work, 1 month's worth of usage
Well,
before.
I think a check dam is just gonna run around it and wash
Right.
out
Yeah.
even further into the road.
Okay, all right, but the point being is that what's the appropriate thing to do when we find out how much money we have left? And then go out, take a look at it, and we'll come to that decision. Okay, good. All right,
Point of order.
point of order.
With regard to grading, I called Bob Battles numerous times last week after our rain,
Yeah,
and he mentioned that he couldn't go out there to take care of it because he hadn't heard from the selectmen yet. We've got repeated phone calls from an individual on, I guess it would be Bailey Road, Lake Shore in that direction.
yeah,
And she's had some serious questions about damage to her car.
yeah. Okay, as I said, I'll be getting it. I'll come in
Okay.
tomorrow morning.
And one other thing on that note, when I had spoken with Bob the week before, the problem that he's having is we had a grading schedule that he was to follow.
Yep,
He had a block of time that he had scheduled for that.
yep,
We held him off on the grading last
Okay.
week and the week before. Now he doesn't have that block of time to go out there when
Okay.
we need him out
yeah,
there.
all I can do is talk to them all
Okay,
and see what I
just
can
letting
do.
you know, that's what he mentioned
Yep.
yesterday again to us.
Okay. Okay, plan meetings.
Well, we voted 2 weeks ago to hold off on the grading.
Yes, I know. But we're at a point now where we pretty much have to get it done right now. I mean, with all the rain and everything else.
Right.
I'm kind of glad we didn't grade because the rain would have just ruined that. But,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that we planned
Now
on the rain.
it's time for it to start freezing, so
Yeah.
we should do it.
Okay, well, that's probably what I'm gonna talk to them about tomorrow when I do the work session down here. Status of culvert Molly Philbrook Road. I did, talk with, James Run? From White Mountain, and he went out and looked at it. There's no cost to the town. He's gonna give us an estimate on what he thinks it might take to replace that culvert, and that will go into the budget cycle for next year. There was a report on the phone call and the meeting I think I had with him in the action folder.
Speaking about that, when you're going with an engineer to enlarge that, why can't we just put another one right beside it?
One of the things that, and this came from Bob Battles, and then I looked it up online and I agree with what Mr. Battles says. He went to I don't know if it was DOT sponsored thing, but I think it was, but it could have been out of,
Yes,
the-
it's Texan.
the tech stuff out of,
Yeah.
yeah, out of UNH.
Yeah.
Stipulating that when you have a culvert that's been in there for X period of time is have an engineer look at it. You run into huge problems when you do it on your own. If you want, you can talk to Bob, give him a
No,
call.
I mean,
Yeah.
just had that thought.
Yeah, it's, nothing is simple. So, the recommendation was to do this, so that's what I'm doing, and, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, Bob was saying if it overflowed a number of times,
Yeah.
then you have to get an engineer to size the culvert.
Yeah. And then I'm double checking, it's not the one at the very bottom of the hill, it's the one.
Very first one up top.
Right, yeah. Just double checking on that. Still nothing on this, those, grading. Okay, I did, Mr. Battles, the road guy, did try to remove a culvert on Granite Road, but he received at least 2 messages on the answering machine stipulating that the owner of the property would be moderately upset if it was removed. We did have a discussion about it or 2 weeks ago, I think it was. And because when we did the road work there was no culvert in there at the time that we did the road work, is that culvert should be taken out. I've got some stuff here on driveways and all that I'll be looking at again tomorrow. And what I'll do is when I get done with that, I'll send you guys a wrap up on the information I had.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I'll deal with that. I'm gonna drop back a minute now before I get into comments and reports. We need to set up the schedule for, do we want to have a meeting next Monday? Because Tuesday's election. Normally we've done it the day before as opposed to the day after our meeting generally.
Does it make any difference to me?
Is Monday okay with you?
Yeah.
All right, so same time, same place, 5 o'clock Monday, so everybody's aware of that. And then the polls are open how long?
8 to 7.
8 to 7, so that's 11 hours. And we need 2 people there each time. So 8 to 7, so if we do 8 to 12, 12 to 4, and 4 to 7. And then there's counting afterwards, which could take ages. So we need 2 people. Does that make sense? So you 2 divided up 8 to 12 and 12 to 4 and 4 to 7, and then considering that the 7 could run to 9:30 by the time they're done counting. But I think there's only 2 selectmen required. I don't know if the 2 selectmen rule goes through the counting process.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's required during the counting process.
Right.
We have to
Okay.
check with the town clerk on that.
I believe so.
I think there's 2 has to
Yeah.
sign it.
You have to sign.
So, yeah, okay, that's right. I do
You
remember
was there
that.
last year,
Yeah.
I had to sign it after you did.
Okay.
Sure, sign it.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm perfectly happy, 2 of us, 8 to 12. I'm happy to take a morning shift, either one of you.
Doesn't matter to me.
Flip a coin?
Doesn't matter.
I'm taking a number 1 or 2, which is it?
I was there, 8 to 4 last year, so
Yeah.
if somebody wants that,
All right, so I got Lenny,
or I'll take it again, it doesn't matter to me.
I got Lenny Espie is from 8 to 4 o'clock. You want to take the morning then, Lawrence?
I'll take one. doesn't
Okay,
matter.
so then, that's Lawrence. And then you get off at 12, and then I come in at 12. And then Lawrence, you and I end up,
You're gonna go to 4 and then.
well, I'll stay till the end of the counting. You know, if if Lenny wants to show up, great, but HS,
Oh, you're going from 12 to 7,
yeah, and whatever time it takes.
and I'll spend Lenny from
Right,
4 to 7.
yeah, there you go. Lawrence Edwards. Okay, so that's all set. Thank you.
Gloria, Jenny. I go back to the culvert on Granite Road.
Yes.
I don't know if you can buy it. The gentleman has put up, which is, I have no objections at all, 2 American flags on either side of these culverts on some pine trees.
Okay,
And he's put up some reflector
okay.
you know, I think the flags are great, but I mean, I don't know what it's supposed to be an entrance to. If nobody knew, they would think maybe somebody's putting in a structure. You would usually put your flags outside of your house
Right.
or, you know,
Okay.
your driveway or
Yeah,
whatever.
as I said, there's stuff that I'll read up on it. We went over, had a discussion on it 2 weeks ago, came to a decision based on that, but I'll look at it some more. I wanted to listen to the messages that were left on the answering machine for the road guy and figure out what to do with it after that point. So it's a continuing process. At this point, I see no reason to change what I originally thought on this issue, but something might change my mind when I'm looking at more information. And as I said, when I get done with that, I'll write up a report on it and get it to you too, and email it to you tomorrow. All right. So we rescheduled the election. I told you about the Molly Philbrook. I did put a new post out here in the lending book box. I'm gonna let the ground freeze. I put it in pretty deep and tamped it down pretty well, but putting up a new post with that much weight on one side, I'd like to wait till the ground freezes. But when that happens, I'll move the box over to the new post and just cut the other post off at the ground level, because it's cemented in place. So that's going along. I did follow up on the grant application that we had. There was a cost of $1,360, and what they would do with that is, we're talking about the library here, they'd come in and they do an evaluation of the library, those things that it needs. So they have the information they need to put into a grant application. The other thing that they do provide is, once they look and see what the building needs and talk with the town and the selectmen and everything else and figure out what the building needs, then they go through and they look at all the grants that are available and present the selectmen with those grants that are applicable to what we need, and their estimation, and understand this is an estimation, their estimation of the likelihood that we get it, because they charge $85 an hour to file for a grant, but there's no fee at the end of it where they get a 2% or 3% of the grant. It's a straight cash up front. She was explaining the reasons that they do business that way is that a lot of grants, you can't take part of the money and pay a grant provider. They just don't allow it. So the basic process is that. I'm wondering now whether or not the library has a certain amount of money. I think it might be here somewhere, but anyways, under budget stuff. But that's just a painting, that the Town Hall Restoration Fund, which is not exclusively to painting, currently has about $40,000 in it. And there's an opportunity that we might be able to get grant money to do the painting, possibly. So it's just a question of whether you two think that taking $1,360 out of the library or the Town Hall Restoration Fund is worth doing. I can't think of any place else particularly to take the money for that out right now, and this is specifically about the library. I think if we come up to having a grant written, that $85 an hour, I don't know if that should come out of this fund, but getting this report done, because they need that information. I did say that we had the L-chip grant. I'm willing to show her that information, but I think she's more comfortable, she and her partner are more comfortable generating their own information, coming in and looking at the building, taking pictures and measuring and stuff like that.
So are they applying for an L-chip grant, or are they applying for a different grant?
Right, at this moment, they've done L-chip grants in the past, but at this moment, she didn't name any specific grant. It's the one that I brought up, is that the building had it in the past, and some of the stuff that we're still trying to do is a recommended part of the architectural study of the grant, generated for the grant. And she did allow as how it's a building that's gotten a grant in the past. It's not necessarily in your favor or against you whether or not you're going to get another grant. But overall, I think it makes sense to start pursuing those people that write grants professionally.
So she's looking for $1,300 up front before she does anything.
Well, no, before she files for a grant, but in order to, when you get the form, there's a lot of information you have to fill out, and that's what she's going to be gathering, or that's what they would be gathering when they're come and look at the library for this amount of money. And the other side of it is, it also means that they'll come to us with a presentation of grants that are available for the things that they notice needed to be done with the building. There might be a list of 5 things, and we say this is the most important or not, or whatever. And then they say, well, here's this grant here, there's a pretty good chance of getting it. And if this grant here is a little iffy, which one do you want to go for? Because we're paying for the work whether we get it or not. So it doesn't seem to me that that's an unusual way to do business for people like this. They used to take a percentage of grants, but grants are pretty much writing that ability out. But you just can't do it that way anymore. So overall, I think this is a good idea, because it could save the town a significant amount of money, and it might not just be, there are other grants that aren't related to the library available. If we can get a working relationship with a firm that does this as a living, I think it might help the town in the long run. There's energy grants out there and stuff like that. I'm going to say that the professional aspect of this, they've seen what works and they've seen what doesn't.
Well, I was gonna say, we could try that, see what happens,
Yeah.
and see what kind of,
As the sort of bookkeeper, do you think it's unreasonable to take $1,360 out of the?
I'd have to look at that when we created it to
Okay,
see
all right.
how that.
Well, so so the time being, we just sort of pursue it, and I'll see where, I'll get
I
together
mean,
with
it's a
you.
municipal building.
Yeah.
If it's your choice to
Right.
do this,
Right, but,
whether town hall fund,
yeah, we just need to keep it as above board as possible here, so we'll check into whether or not we could utilize that money. But if that seems fair and legal and reasonable, would you be?
yeah, I'd be
Yeah.
fine, yeah.
Okay.
So this is for her study to see what the building needs?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, that and, so Lenny, one of the things is back on your list, and I think maybe we could start working on this one together, is just looking at the subcommittee evaluate work needed at the library.
Yeah.
So whenever I get hooked up with her for a schedule, I'll let you know, because the Masons might want to get involved in this, because they have a vested interest in the building too. I understand it puts two hats on your head, and you gotta be a little careful there, but it wouldn't be a bad idea, I think, to get you involved with it. Okay, so when I set up a schedule, is there any particular day of the week you just know is never any good?
No.
Because usually when I set stuff like this up, I try to get 2 dates, and then I get in touch with you and said, here's the first one is the first choice, second one, second choice. And, okay, all right, I'll follow up on that, and we'll start hashing that one out together. I have finally gotten the
Mr.
recall
Chairman.
back.
Just a question. If, I guess I'm confused, if they're grant writers, what are they gonna be determining about the building? Like, why would their
Because they
determination what the building
understand,
needs?
they know
trump
what the
it?
grants ask for. They know what the grants ask for, so they can go in and say, okay, there's grants that apply to this, there's grants that apply to this, and grants that apply to this. They take the proper picture, measurements, everything they need to fill out the forms.
Right, but I guess what I'm confused about is, it almost sounds like they would be prioritizing, okay, first you need to do this and first you need to do that. To
No.
me, a report by an architect would be trump anything that a grant writer would tell you as far as what needs to be done
Right, and
structurally or whatever to a building.
right, and that's all part of what they work with, and then looking at what was generated when we had the architectural study done for the L-chip grant is information that'll be available to them. But as far as prioritizing, what they prioritize is that here's the problems you have, possible 3 concerns. Here's grants that relate to 4 different things. Of these 4, this is the one most likely to get. Right, that's the kind of information they give us. I gotta say, I've never worked with a grant writer on a professional basis before, and it's sort of new ground, but I think that the value of it could be substantial to Effingham. Well, most of these things mean that you double your money, or, there's matching funds, there's all this kind of stuff, so it's worth pursuing.
I mean, I don't disagree with that. It's
Okay.
just usually, in my experience, the grant writer is told, here's the project we want to do.
Yep.
Find us a grant that fits with it.
Yep, and we're gonna have that right, so. Yes,
And in regards to grants, I've done some research and work for the firefighter assistance grants.
yep,
And just for the basic application, they have questions as far as age of the building, size of the building, what it's used for.
yep,
They want population, income figures,
yep,
many different pieces of data
yep,
that go into a grant. And that's what those people will probably be looking for.
right,
Not just to identify, it's up to you to decide what's wrong with the
Yeah.
town hall. They're gonna find you grants
yeah,
that would apply to those.
yeah,
But
that's the
they
way,
still need, all that data, no matter what grant,
yeah.
has to be collected.
Yeah. All right, well, as I said, we'll look into the funding on that and see what we can do, and try to move ahead on it. I did finally get in touch with Watershed Alliance, but I left 2 or 3 calls in on the number they had, but she was out of the office. I got a call back, was it Saturday, I think it was, she was back in the office, but I haven't been able, no, Monday, but I haven't been able to get in touch with her yet, but I will try again tomorrow. But she said she is back in the office now, so. And that's on the work that we agreed to do up on Bonnyman Road, so. All right, that's the end of my list. Any luck with the treatment for the salt shed?
It's about a little over 2 loads of salt in it, we'd have to move that all to get, to get in there.
Okay.
So I said.
So what we'd wanna do is make sure we know what the stuff is and have enough for spring, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because we should get it done, because salt is just hell on cement, I think. But, okay.
But I think it just, there's too much admin.
Yeah, you said, I was trying to remember, I think you said that you knew where there was some leftover, or you knew what it was? We're just trying to get a name or what it
Yeah,
cost.
I'll find that name for that.
Okay, and then we just sort of, how many square feet, how much we need to have, so we have it on hand in the spring?
I think I got 5 gallons left, I think
Okay.
it's plenty. Yeah.
All right, okay.
I don't have any, no,
Agenda?
Hmm?
Agenda?
yeah. You didn't want me to have one, or?
That's my goal,
All right,
there we go.
so I don't know what you had down there.
Yeah,
We
well, I had that, and
Why
then-
don't we have this prior to the meeting? Should we have this?
Well,
Thursday
actually,
morning?
you should have, I think they were on the table here, must have just got passed out. You mean prior to coming here?
Yeah.
Yeah, generally speaking, I will try and remind the office that when I get done working on redoing it for the next week on Wednesdays, is just to have a copy sent to you. Understanding that occasionally they get stuff that comes into the
Oh, yeah.
office that needs to get added to it, but we'll just start making sure that happens. The other thing, did any luck on getting in touch with the guy that owns the cellar hole in Stephenville?
Yes, I did, I talked to him.
Yeah,
And he's got a couple of things in the garage he wants to get out.
Yeah.
And then he said he'd try to knock that in so that it doesn't fall down on somebody. And he wants to rebuild,
right.
but he just don't know when he's gonna be able to do it. So I
Right.
said, well, you need to put some type of a fence or something up there. so
Right.
Once there's a hole there.
Yeah.
And he was in agreement with everything.
Okay, so you figure 2 weeks, and if it's not done, give him another call?
Yeah.
Reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was, in agreement with everything.
All right. So, did you talk to him this week? Because is 2 weeks
Yes.
from today or 2 weeks from a week ago?
Yeah, I talked to him this morning sometime.
Okay. So why don't we say, if he hasn't done anything by the 15th, we need to get in touch with him again.
And I still gotta get that container off the ground, I haven't
Okay.
done that yet.
Like I say, Lawrence, it's easier with two. Give me a call when you think you can do it. and We'll get together. It's not that hard, it's
No, it won't take long, to do it.
it's just gonna be raining, that's probably the problem. More than likely.
When it's raining, we won't need level, we know where the water's running.
Just going through budget items. Lenny, yours was just a subcommittee, evaluate work needed in the town hall, and we'll get together with that. Okay.
Did you get hold of Dana? The light?
No, and I thought it was this one out here. Cheryl, I figured she had told me it was the one at the library.
I think Rebecca said this one wasn't working either, I think.
That Randy took care of that, didn't he?
Supposed to have taken care of it.
Okay.
We'll see tonight.
And Lenny, I never said that, I did notice that the shed got fixed. You never mentioned the fact that you got it done, and it probably was 3 months ago now.
Randy did that.
Randy did that,
Yeah.
several months ago.
Yeah.
Actually, Labor Day weekend, he did it.
So nobody at the library knows anything about Dana being called either?
No.
All
I
right.
was gonna ask.
I will do that. Post haste.
Lenny, I'm just
It's
gonna
got a
put,
new bulb in there, so probably when they did the roof, pounding on it or something, did something to the sensor, that's what I'm guessing.
We really need to get it fixed, it's really dark.
Yeah,
I
particularly
covered the
with
sensor up, it wouldn't come on.
the kind of,
okay, Lenny, I'll just put down for
Early night
next
time.
week, it's just electric concerns.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you were gonna follow up on the alarm system for the library. Did you ever
No.
follow through on that?
No, I haven't, but we'll look into it.
Excuse me, are you speaking about the fire? The fire part of the alarm system? Yes.
Yeah,
Well, no,
for the building, an alarm system, yeah,
Yes, we've contacted night security several times.
yeah.
So,
And somebody had mentioned
Because I-
Time Warner did it too, but
I remember you said that, yeah,
I don't know who said that.
where you heard it.
well, the panel we
Somebody
put,
said it here.
the panel we put in there, has that potential. So
Yeah.
we are all lined up for it, it was just an additional expense. And yes, Cheryl's been very frustrated. about
So
getting
Lenny,
back
when
to
you
that.
talk about that, are you looking at this as who gets notified if there's a fire, or is it also like a panic alarm if there's a?
No, this is a, the only part missing is a smoke and fire alarm.
Okay. that transmits a call out when it's tripped. That's what we're talking about.
Goes on the phone line.
Yeah, you've already got that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. It was looking down under budget items there, the cost estimate for High Watch and West Ranges, I put 156, but when we get in front of the budget committee, one of the things I'm thinking about doing is that it actually went down for cost of distance from this year to the estimate that we got from FR Carroll. And it was significantly more the year before, but that was based upon the price of asphalt. So when we get in front of the budget committee, we should present them with the other number. Because 156 is exactly what it would cost based upon the price that asphalt was when he gave that quote. And that can shift, so when we're in front of the budget committee, we should just present the other number and negotiate how much over the absolute low rock bottom price was. Because the cost of asphalt could go up, everything else could stay the same, but, you know, that could throw another, you know, I think it could throw another $8,000 or $9,000 on it pretty quick.
Yeah, I think it was $80 a ton, he quoted 70.
Right.
The price had gone down.
Right, so it just is a reasonable thing in front of the budget committee in case, so we don't forget just to put forward is that if we had done it the year before, it would have cost this much, here's what it would have cost this year. All right.
The gas is going back up, so probably.
Everything, yeah. It's that winter blend or whatever it is. Alright, so the way I'm looking at what we're doing, just, I understand that we had a bridge, looking back at Elm Street, and I do understand what's been said about it, but we did get we did get an estimate on what that is, so I'm just thinking about putting that forward to the budget committee. That specific amount of money, make sure that the budget committee understands, because they have been recommending that we put money in the bridge fund. I want to make sure that the budget committee agrees that, you know, if it's for maintenance, we should put it in for maintenance. Just see what they say about raising the money to do that project for next year. I have a feeling that the selectmen have the right to expend that fund, and right now off the top of my head, or whether or not we have to, you know, put it up on the warrant and take it out.
We get times, I can't see it getting done this year.
Right, right.
Another project not getting done.
Yeah. I did get it was in the action folder. And as I said, this is just for the budget committee, it's not something that I'm really necessarily trying to do right now.
195,900.
Yeah, of replacing the modular out back. So it's just a question of when we get to the budget committee, because at some point, you know, if we look at that building as a life expectancy of X, say we want to replace it in 10 years, we have 70 in there now, or whatever it is, and how much we have to build it up over a course of time to eventually replace that building. When I did speak with that company, they build modular homes, but they also build modular municipal buildings, which is a whole different standard as far as like bathroom sizes and how the door has to open and all this other particular stuff. So that's the quote that they gave us, and unfortunately they didn't send back the drawing that I sent to them on what the floor plan could be, so I'm going to ask them to email that back to me so we can put that in with the attachment. But essentially we set up, I could be a little wrong about this, police station, entryway, bathroom, and then this is a hallway that goes down like this, and then that's your zoning office, and this is your welfare office. That's pretty much the way it was. There's your front door. So there's just a window here so people can, the welfare officer or whoever is that office, whichever one gets it, can see who's coming down the hall, down the pathway and stuff like that. But,
Where does the supervisors go?
huh?
Where do the supervisors go?
The bathroom.
There is space down in here. This wall, if I remember correctly, this wall here was a lot of storage on one of this corner down in here. And I did have space for the
Thank you.
supervisors, but
Thank you.
it was part of the consideration. I'll get the drawing back from the guy, because that drawing was made
That
like
slot
6.
that's in the back there, Henry, next to the police department, there's a door there.
Yeah,
There's files in front of it.
but it's not going to be the same building.
Oh, okay.
All right, as I said, that's just starting to put it forward to the budget committee.
The other thing to me that we should be considering is, as has recently come up, right now we're okay through March to vote at the school. What about long-term having a building that belongs to the town that legally meets the requirements for voting?
Exactly.
That why are we replacing the building we have with, for all intents and purposes, the building we have? We have a lot of land out behind here. Why don't we look longer term
Yep.
and build something that will meet all of our needs, that will have,
May I suggest?
you know, a
that you
town
come to-
meeting room?
You come to the budget meeting and put this forward. All I was trying to do is get a ballpark figure to present to the selectmen in the budget, so the selectmen could present it to the budget committee, because whatever we're gonna do back there, we don't have enough money now, we need to start saving it up. But thank you for that, I'm not being facetious. If you have these ideas, please come to the budget committee hearing. All right, so 91A, I'm assuming that everybody is happy enough at this point with the way things are going. The office is handling it most of the time on a daily basis. Those times when they're unable to do it, they do have a form that can be signed so that the town has a record of when the original request came in and any reasons that were given by the town why it couldn't be met in 5 days. I do think that 91A reads that after 5 days, if you can't deliver it, you better give them a pretty good reason why. So. As far as I know, we've never had a procedural problem
Never.
with the town, somebody
Never.
complaining that we're
We
not
had
doing
one,
it. All right.
we had one court case,
Yeah.
and we had, even though we don't normally get a lot of paperwork, we had enough on that case,
Yeah,
because we could see it coming.
yeah. So anyways, things are going along pretty well as far as that goes. So it's just a question, do either of you mind if I take this off the list for future discussion? Okay. All right, we do have a procurement policy that we've been working on. We don't know
Yeah,
about.
Matt needs a little more time, we've kept him pretty busy.
Okay. And any other thing you want to bring up, Lawrence?
Yes, on the Stevens Road, the money for that, we have to vote to carry that money over.
Right.
The board has to vote
Yes.
to carry that money over.
And you
And
did
we can
check
only
and
carry
we
that over
can.
for 1 year.
Yeah. It is available to do that. Okay.
I'll work up those numbers.
Yeah.
We do that usually in December.
Yeah.
It's prior to the end of the year.
Okay. And one of the things during my work last week rather, I just ran out of time, but hopefully this week, and I may come in on Thursday to do this too, is just run the numbers, how much we spent, what we got left, and stuff like that, and just get it all on one piece of paper. I did it once, and I can't find it anymore, so I'll just do that again. And just so everybody's aware of it, we did get a date set for the injunction, is set? 17th at 1 o'clock up at the county courthouse.
17, I thought I read the 27. Did I read the 27? Or was I seeing that?
Well, you might have.
Huh?
You might have read that.
Was it the 27?
No, it's 17.
17th, yeah. Okay, and then other things that got brought up, and again, Mr. Ageni's here, the waste material. I did get some other information from a resident, but I also did talk with the Municipal Association quite a bit based upon some of the information gotten from that resident. She understand that this is legal help that we're getting through the Municipal Association because we're members of the Municipal Association, and her take on it was, if we had a form that a property owner would sign stipulating that if the town was to level it out so more could be put there, is in that agreement you need to stipulate about how much more stuff, or how much more material the property owner is willing to accept. You also need to delineate what the cost would be to dispose of that material if you had to drive past that location to the normal place where you dump it off. So I think there is a way to work this out, and I'll try and email you copies of this. It was in the action folder this week, but I'll send you copies of this tomorrow. And I'll look through this, and if I come up with some more stuff, I'll add it to this. But, at the next meeting,
Henry,
we,
just to let you know, I went down, I counted as near as I could, 39 loads that are
just sitting on top of the ground.
sitting on top of the ground.
Right.
So my guesstimate would be that possibly the year before might have been the same amount.
Right.
Just,
Yeah,
you
okay,
know,
yeah,
so obviously, the first year was leveled off, otherwise they wouldn't have been able to put
right,
another 39
yeah,
loads. They traveled probably, I don't know, 1,500, maybe 2,000 feet, if
Right.
that, instead of going,
the way I look at it, from that location where we normally
3
dump it
miles.
off at the transfer station, from that location, if you were considering driving time, dumping off and getting back, you're basically killing about 45 minutes of operating time for payroll and vehicle charges.
right,
Every time you do that. So there's significant savings possible to the town if we can figure out some way to do this. I was cheered a bit on the phone saying is that if we really do our homework on this and make it as airtight as we can, is that doing this may allow us to continue to
I
do.
mean, I don't care if you dump it there anymore, I mean, it doesn't matter to
Right.
me, it's saving the town money.
Right.
I mean,
Yep.
that to me is a no-brainer, and I know there are a lot of new rules and regulations, but some of them are pretty stupid.
Yeah, and some of them are really worth trying to figure out how you can still
You know,
achieve what
because
you
if you can save money, why not save money? If you can,
Yeah, well, this is the information, I'll read
you
it
know,
out.
it doesn't make sense to,
People are paying attention, so I'll read out, this is just a summation of a conversation I had with Municipal Association last Wednesday or Thursday. For the deposit of larger quantities of waste material on private land with landowner permission, we can craft a method to allow us to level out previously delivered waste material in order to leave more material at the same place. We need to define the per mile delivery cost of material from worksite to transfer station, meaning the place that we normally dump it off, including hourly rates for truck and driver. We need an estimate of the volume of material on an annual basis that is hauled. And one of the things about, in particular, this location, but we're not specifically designing it for this location, we're trying to develop policy, is that pretty much everything that happens on most of the dirt roads in Effingham drives right by that location on the way to the transfer station. Pretty darn close, yeah.
but
So-
that, let me just say, that's not gonna be a town depository.
Right, I
At some point,
And
it's
therein we
it's not gonna take anymore.
Right,
It
and
can't.
therein you get to
So-
the point when you have an agreement with the property owners about how many loads or square yards or whatever it is that the guy's gonna allow to do it, because the question that's gonna end up being is if you're spending taxpayers' money to do this, is proving how much it saves. Right, in the position the town won't wanna find itself is in agreement with this to put in, say 40 loads, and after 20, the guy goes, well, I decided I don't wanna do it anymore. No, you made an agreement to deliver 40. That's the kind of thing in the agreement that we craft. So anyway, let me read on. We need to establish what larger quantities actually are, X number of yards of material. We need to craft an agreement from that form that the property owner signs stipulating volume of material the town can leave at the location after it is leveled off. This can be a combination of volumes to be delivered and or length of time it can be delivered in months or years. In order to place the town in a stronger position for this property owner's agreement should also stipulate for what length of time and under what conditions the town maintains the right to remove the deposited material from the site for uses beneficial to the town. Agreement should also stipulate that for X period of time, the property owner agrees that material will not be moved off the site. This is to prohibit the sale of material that the town paid to level out, right? As I said, this is real early innings on this, but these are the things that came up in the conversation. The conversation I had with HMA Legal indicates that the whole process is a gray area, and we must do all we can to prove what processes this system actually saves taxpayer money and is not being done for the sole benefit of the property owner. The danger lies in the perception of the public that the benefit to the property owner outweighs the savings to the road budget or to the town. So that's step one, and it's just bring up with a board. Do you mind if I sort of start crafting an agreement just as a draft, and we can start fine tuning it?
That's fine. If we spend money on a private property, as long as it's beneficial to the town, then I think the law lets us do it. I know
Yeah, yeah, we need to do
It's
our
like
homework.
if we
on this.
plowed a section of a class 6 road, as long as it's benefiting town,
Right.
we can do that, but we can't spend money on a class 6
But
road.
yeah, only
it's-
erosion stopping erosion is the only thing
Yeah,
that we can do.
or say fire protection or
Right.
something like that.
Yeah, well, that's what the erosion thing is for, is to allow you that fire protection. Yeah, it's gonna be a little tricky to get this right, and then I look at the new information that I got on the case study that was done. That's a very particular case. But, I'll do that, I'll get a draft on this to the two of you, and then we'll start working on getting that thing nailed down, and then,
Henry, could I make a suggestion?
Yes.
And maybe put in, instead of getting, you might have to get into yardage or loads or whatever, but you might want to put, depending on the circumstance, say that project. In
Right.
other words, if you're doing, say, a mile of, let's call it Granite Road.
right,
Okay, I as a landowner will say, I'll take that material
right,
until the project's done.
yeah. And that can be
Right.
length of time, you know.
Rather than say, oh, it's, 42 loads, well, you shorted me a load, or you gave me two, you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
I think it would be easier, it's
Yeah.
not like you're cleaning out a ditch and you've got one load.
Yeah, no,
You
I had
know,
it based
somebody
on,
might want it dumped at the end of their driveway to fill.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
yeah, so far it's based on, volume or length of time, but I can also just put part of the listing as there as per project. It depends on what the.
yeah, I mean, I just,
Yeah.
Or until we can't dump there no more, until it's full.
Define full. Could be a ski slope by the time we're done. All right, so the grant writing was done. Well, Lenny, do you have anything else you wanted to bring up?
Oh, I did. We talked about the transfer station a while back.
Yeah,
Fees and stuff we charge.
yeah,
Yeah, we give away the farm there compared to other towns.
Yeah.
I've got a list of what Freedom charges, Espie,
okay,
Tuftonboro, Wakefield.
all right,
But Mark wants to go over them with me,
okay,
and then he's probably got some suggestions and
All right.
how we're gonna enforce it and everything. So.
right,
But he also wanted to talk to the attendants, see how they handle it.
right.
So one day he's free, he's gonna get over and then go run around, check on them.
Okay, because we started charging for tires, we got a lot less tires, but if you're charging less than other towns, it still pays to have your friend living in Effingham take your tires here because it costs you less to get rid of, so that could still be going on.
You
But
know,
it was.
when the bigger
70%.
towns than us only take out one roll off a demo a week,
Right,
we're doing 4.
okay,
Tells you
all right,
a little bit, maybe this.
yeah, no, you want to work with them,
Yeah.
and crunch some numbers and bring them up. I'll just put that on the agenda list of, continuing projects, is pricing and transfer station.
It's not an easy conversion,
No,
and the bulky waste is gonna be the toughest to encounter.
yep,
I mean, we gotta do something.
I don't disagree,
Yeah.
but I think that the gate then is gonna have to go, you're gonna have to go back to using the gate, because once they're in,
Yeah.
okay. Anything else, Lynn?
No.
I'm sorry, Lawrence, anything with you?
No, I don't think
Okay. We do have a run out back and talk with Rebecca. I'll try to get, oh, she's here.
She's probably gone.
Oh, she's here right now. Are you anticipating, we wanted to go over your budget. We can run into the other room and do that.
Whatever's easiest.
Yeah, and then the budget committee can take over this room and, so, other than that, anything else you?
No,
A motion in your pocket there, Lawrence?
Any more public comments?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, public comment? In the back.
Hey, Micah Halling. I think you skipped over Elm Street's project on Roads and Bridges earlier. As I was looking at that bridge fund that everybody's referencing, and the way it was established, I don't actually think you can access that for maintenance and repair.
Yeah, we did mention that earlier.
Okay, I didn't know if you were up to speed on that, because if you're going forward to next year, I think you're gonna have to form another fund.
No, the last thing Lenny and I were speaking about at this meeting was we now have an estimate, or we have a bid, but it's gonna be a year old then, so I consider it an extraordinarily strong estimate, but take that in front of the budget committee and see if we can raise the money to do it.
Okay, well, that's what I mean, that fund is under RSA 35-1, and it's not for maintenance, it's for construction and
Yes.
reconstruction. So 35-1C allows you to make another fund for maintenance. We
Yeah.
used to have it for Hunter's Bridge. Back in '96, there was another one for just specifically, it says repairs and maintenance. There's a distinction, so you would probably need to establish a new fund going into next year with the budget committee and a warrant article to fund it.
Okay.
Just,
Yeah. Anything else with public comment?
Yes,
In the front.
you're talking about the tires at the transfer station?
Yes.
Fewer tires? Oh, I know where they are. And I'd like to know how I can avoid having to pay to take those tires to the dump.
We generally make an exception for that, Barbara.
Huh?
We generally make an exception for that.
Okay. Because I can't think of any cars that have 7 tires.
See,
Yeah, okay.
Off the top of my head, as far as verifying that you took them not off your property, but off a road, give
They're
us,
on my property.
yeah, give us a week till next week and we'll figure out what it is, you know, the proper procedure to go about it. All right. I understand your point. In the back.
Just a little point of order. I'm hearing a lot of numbers being thrown around. We gotta raise money for this, we gotta raise money for that. Please be aware, I know you are, that the tax rate is $22.80,
Yep,
1,000.
yep.
And I think the majority of this town is gonna, probably can't afford the $22.80.
Yeah, I do look at because personally, I look at the budget committee's job is, the selectmen's job is quite often to come up with what they think the town needs. Right, the budget committee's job is to sit back there and think whether or not the town can afford it, or whether or not it's important enough to reduce another budget so that the overall budget doesn't go up. Right, but I look at the problem we're having with bridges right now, and to some degree is based upon the deferred maintenance. So I see I personally have no problem going in front of the budget committee and asking money for maintenance. Whether or not the town raises it, that's the town's decision.
Yeah.
But, good enough?
Yeah.
Okay, and more.
You're talking about tires, we have had phone calls with regard to talking about 7. We had a resident, 8 tires that were laying on the side of Wilkinson Swamp Road.
Right.
Local hunters made them aware that they were there because they don't access that property. And we spoke with the owner and told them to come through, and we would speak with the transfer station
Okay,
about it.
that's kind of what I figured we'd do. But, anything else? In the back.
My name's Bob Rosnicki. I don't know if this is the proper time. I have road damage, town road damage. 3 80,000-pound Coleman concrete trucks turned around in my driveway, snapped off the India Road. I reported this to the town twice now. Twice the road agent was supposed to come and see me. No one's arrived.
I actually did go up and look at the property. I don't know where the town sits in with it. I don't think Coleman was delivering to us, and
he wasn't.
I saw more of the problem being in the driveway than where it hits the road, but,
He snapped the edge of the road off.
all right. What time are you home? Evenings?
I work from 6 o'clock in the morning until 7 at night. I'm out of work to be able to do it. I build road for a living.
Yeah, no, I understand.
To leave the road the way it is now, you're inviting bigger repairs in the future.
Okay. Yeah, I did go up and look at that.
The whole edge of the road snapped off to the right of my driveway, and directly in the front of my driveway, there's a foot piece that's broke off now.
All right.
These things only get worse.
Yeah, they do. I'll go up again tomorrow and take another look.
Coleman's in with our road agent, they're buddies.
Pictures.
Now, it'd be, you know,
All right. All right.
it's gonna save us a bunch of money now, as
Yeah.
opposed to doing it later when it's gonna have to be done.
Okay. I'll go up again tomorrow and take a look, grab a couple photographs and send you some.
Where's the road you
It's up off of Green Mountain.
Green Mountain, 159. Come look
159.
the end of the driveway, you're more than welcome to.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, well, just so everybody's aware of it, we are going to continue the selectmen's meeting. We're going over the zoning enforcement officer's budget. As far as I know, neither of us are bringing up anything else. None of us
I
are,
have nothing.
so there will be no other business conducted?
No, let me, when they sign that slip for the concrete,
Yeah,
Coleman's, it's right in that slip, but they're not responsible for anything that happens off the road.
right.
Once they go on their property.
Okay, well, we'll double check and see whether or not it's town road that the
Well,
sewage
what they-
damage. Okay. All right, so, everybody's aware of it, after the budget?
Turn-in, you mean?
He was turning his trucks around in my driveway and snapped off our road, which, you know, if you let this go, you're talking thousands of dollars. It's only a matter of time. Water's gonna get in there now.
Okay,
No, I was just stating that he had done that on, right on his the slip that he
But I
signed.
agree, but he turned around in private property, passed through no trespassing signs. 3 trucks.
You didn't have the delivery, right?
Oh, I did.
I think that's what they need to
The
know.
delivery was not to my house. It was to someplace else on the road.
yep. So, as long as everybody's aware of that, we will adjourn the meeting after we get done talking to the zoning officer about the budget. Other than that, no other business will be conducted by the selectmen. We are now gonna move into the other room.
Get my hat tweed in there and I forgot to do that. Do it now.
I like meeting with 4 men in a small room, it just makes my day.
Any significant changes?
I've asked for a slight increase in the salary line. It's averaging 8 hours a week for 50 weeks, so that's, would assume 2 weeks of not working. That's up from last year, but it's actually still lower than the budget has been.
Since 2006, you were 11.9.
Yeah.
You're asking for 11.4 now.
Right, no, this is just the wages line.
Okay.
So I'm asking for 9940 in 2016, and the wages in 2006 were 10890. And then they dropped down, and it was because we were being careful of the hours, and there was basically an economic downturn, and there was not a lot going on.
Right.
So we reduced my hours back, and I
Right.
was working another job, so I did the best I could to be efficient
Right, and then
and juggle.
the conformity that the campgrounds are falling under is creating work too.
The campground stuff is creating work. The work, I'm working really closely with the planning board, and that's creating work that's really beneficial to all of us. Because going to their meetings means that we're on the same page in terms of process
Right.
and regulation.
So when you
And
talk about coming to a planning board meeting, when does your clock start ticking?
When I leave the house,
When you leave the house?
yeah. Planning board meetings are the only time I charge for travel.
Because it's it's.
Well, if I go to a workshop, but, yeah.
Right, no, I
Yeah.
understand. I'm just trying to think when in front of the budget committee, they're gonna be, is the reason that you're requesting more in a salary line because you're planning on attending those meetings on a monthly basis?
Probably on a monthly basis, yeah. So far, every planning board meeting I've attended, I've solved a problem.
And they usually run about 3 hours.
No, they usually run about 2.
2?
So with travel time, it's probably 3 hours total,
Okay,
paid time.
all right.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's an argument that you need to make in front of the budget committee, is that the primary reason that you're really increasing the hours is because you're attending the planning board meetings, but it has its degree of benefit.
Right. I think it's that and the increased amount of time that both the selectmen and other people have requested in
Right,
terms
and
of zoning enforcement
Right,
and
and
stuff
one other
like that.
issue is the accessory dwelling units. That's probably gonna start creating some work
Yeah.
in the coming year too.
Yeah.
People, want to be able to build a little apartment in a separate freestanding house on a single lot, which is kind of the way that's very
Right.
broad brush.
Very broad brush, but in fact, it will include some time. Every year that you make a slight change to the zoning ordinance, even if it's an improvement,
Right.
it perhaps changes the amount of time I put in because of, helping people learn, what
Right.
we.
But this is an opportunity for people to derive income from property they already own. Now, granted, they got the expense of building a building, but I think a fair amount of people over time are gonna take advantage of that.
I think so.
And there's gonna be probably significant site plan in relation to that, the way the ordinance is being written in town.
I would hope so, and of course, we know that this is mandated by the state.
Right.
So we are complying with both what the state is requesting that we do
Yeah.
and devising it in a way that we think works well for the
Okay.
residents of Effingham.
So your other budget lines are pretty much
The
the
other
same?
budget lines are pretty much the same. And, you know, the wages line, you know, we keep it a tad high in case something legal comes up.
Right.
And then there's time for
So
me
how
to go
close
do
do you
that.
think you'll come this year to max in and out?
This year we're in.
Yeah.
I actually think I've got a bit of a buffer because the hours were low in the spring. We were in transition at the theater I worked at
Right.
out of my leadership. And so I did not put in as many hours here.
It's a weak argument in the sense that you had another revenue stream which did not allow you to use this one, you lose that, so now you're gonna maximize this revenue stream. You need a better argument than that.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, then,
But it makes, the other stuff,
that isn't the reason for it, but yeah, that's a good point. I think that the town has actually been ill-served by my not attending the planning board meetings. I would say that.
and I do know that over the years that I've either been sitting in the audience or as a selectman, there have been not significant, but continuing concern that the town wasn't doing enough to enforce its regulations.
Yes.
And that's been changing, and it's changed significantly, but there are also more people because of the campgrounds and they anticipated. I mean, if it's 5 cases, 10 cases, 8 cases, whatever it is on the ADU, the accessory dwelling units, that's time again right there.
And I'll also say I've been cautious this year in my hours because one of the things that I felt that our office needs is a flat file for maps.
Right.
And since that was not in the budget, I felt that if I could rein in my hours a little bit and that I had a surplus at the end of the year,
Yeah.
we could get it out of that rather than adding a $1,000 budget
So you're talking
line.
about the big full-size maps?
Yeah, with the
in the back.
out in the back.
Okay.
Yeah. After 10 years on the job, I'm realizing it really is a more grown-up way to
Yeah.
go.
What's the cost of those?
Well, I might be able to find one, used. Have to go to Manchester, Concord for it for somewhere between $300 and $700.
What do you mean used? Our property maps? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's used map drawers.
Oh, drawers.
It's the drawers.
I go, they use now.
No, it's no. I used map file,
Okay.
flat file.
All right.
The new ones run anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000.
Right.
I might be able to find one between 500 and 700.
Yeah.
Find someone with a truck. We go down and get it from some surplus drafting place or something.
Right.
But either way, we're talking about.
Yeah, I think there was a department in
State has a surplus option every year too.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
okay.
so
All right.
something like that.
Okay.
I think it'd be a real asset both to me and to the Conservation Commission and,
Right.
all the boards that meet out there.
Right.
Or choose to meet out there, then the maps will be easier to find.
Right.
And we've got older maps that are in rolls where you can't even get at them. And again, this becomes more and more relevant as people, talk to me about
Okay.
something in Province Lake and we need the historic.
Yeah, I would make a recommendation if the planning board thinks that your attending the meetings is beneficial to them, is get them to write a letter stating so.
Okay.
No, I mean, because I agree with what you're trying to do. I'm just trying to get the argument, we gotta get through the budget committee and we gotta get the town to vote for it, so.
Right.
If the planning board was to put
Well, I
something.
saw it firsthand,
Yeah,
yeah, it was well worth it.
Right. yeah, okay, excellent.
I just want to give everyone the benefit of my experience.
Yeah.
Even if.
Well, you're the one that has to enforce stuff too, so, that's.
Yeah, and,
And you're the one that notices that when somebody should actually recuse themselves because they're in the butter.
yeah. Well, I try and be as neutral as possible,
Yeah.
and I think that's the value of having a staff person there is even if I'm sometimes perceived as having an axe to grind, I really try not to.
Right.
I try and make sure that everything is there and presented and that all sides are being seen. Because the board is acting in its executive or judicial capacity. I'll be going to a ZBA meeting probably in December because it's kind of a difficult situation and I have a lot of information that may be able to help. So.
I do know that one issue that's been brought up a couple times is the amount of money we charge for an application based upon, building a garage is the same
Right.
cost as building a three-family house.
We went through this again, and I think we talked with Matt about it. I think that there is a difficulty in that you can't charge different amounts for different structures unless your building permit is based on the value of the structure.
I'm just thinking square footage, but so that it doesn't cut it.
Well, I don't think so. I think you have to
The
base it on
square
the...
footage of a garage is less than the square footage, per square foot is less than the square footage of a house.
Right, and the square footage of a cabin or a woodshed is
Yeah.
less than.
Okay.
But I think the difficulty is it's either all or nothing. It's either a base number
Right.
or it's based on the valuation of the building that's being
Okay.
built. You know, it's a valuation thing, which means then you have to get the people that are applying for it to give you a valuation, and I have to be qualified to judge whether that valuation is accurate,
Right.
which is, it's taking basically the next step into being a building inspector rather than a code officer. And, you know, I would be happy to take that training, if we wanted to do that. I mean, I've got a lot of building experience. I mean,
Yeah.
I built my own house.
Yeah, I look at
But,
the financial side of it is if the department, for justifiable reasons, is gonna cost more money because of the labor involved in some
Right.
of what you wanna do, is there any way that we can increase the revenue stream from that department to offset the cost?
right, right.
Because the only way that we drive revenue from that office is the cost of a permit.
It's the cost of a permit, right,
Right.
right. Because
So-
we work really hard actually to not charge fines, to resolve issues.
Right.
Because anytime you get into the fining situation, you know, any couple of $100 you might make is gonna be offset by the legal costs.
Right.
So we're always far better off trying to figure out how to problem solve, how to get people to work together, how to get the answer through
Yeah.
through steps, rather than saying, oh, we're gonna, you know, cite them and do this.
Yeah.
Crazy. But, you know, I can re-explore whether there's, you know, what the easiest way might be to have a, you
Yeah,
know,
if you
a
would.
difference. I'll go back and look through my paperwork, because I took copious notes. This
Yeah,
was
I mean,
about
that's
2 years
not-
ago. We
yeah.
were talking about
Yeah.
doing it, and I think at that point, we changed some application
Yeah.
forms, but we...
Yeah, that's a little out of the realm of budget conversation, because that ends up being a selectman, you know, setting fees and stuff like that. But
Right,
might be worth
but
looking
you
at.
can't really do it unless, you
Yeah.
know, I provide you with the information that might be helpful for you to make the
Yeah,
decision.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, do you mind if she puts a little time in on that? Just looking at various options and stuff?
No?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we pay for the time, you know, so.
Right, right. I mean, I can review the notes from the last session.
Yeah.
I'll hold off going to Matt until we perhaps have an idea, because we don't need him to weigh in on it,
Right.
especially if I both notes.
Oh, no, yeah,
And I maybe do a little research to other towns
Yeah.
and, you know, local government center and stuff like that to
Okay.
see if there's a,
all right,
maybe there's a guideline that we're missing that
Yeah.
we could be using,
okay.
you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in a particular rush for the information, but it's worth looking into.
I mean, it's possible that if it's an accessory building under a certain number of square feet, we could stay at the 30,
Right,
saying that's the low price,
Right.
and raise the fees on everything else.
Right.
So our standard fee would be 35,
don't
say,
smile when you say that.
35, 40, whatever. And then there would be a base fee
Yeah.
below that for non-residential structures or
Okay.
accessory structures. So, you know,
Oh, any questions on the budget? We got off topic here.
well, I mean, it's related to the budget
Yeah,
because, you know, one of the things about the budget is we talk about what I'm requesting, but we never talk about the income that's related to it.
Right,
And in most worlds, when you do a budget, your department looks at your expenses and your income,
yeah,
so,
yeah, I haven't had a chance to review the overall budget.
yeah.
We've got the 22 per thousand that we got nailed for this year, but one of the things that Claudia said quickly to me was, in fact, it's just that the money that we brought in on certain things was less than anticipated. And I'm not exactly sure what those were, but I don't think it's your department because you filed more applications this year than you have in a long, long
Yeah,
time.
I mean, it does go in and out.
Yeah.
And we did a big sweep a few years ago when Avatar trained some new people. We got a lot of
Yeah.
sheds that hadn't
Where'd
been
that
caught.
come from?
Yeah, so that was a year with a big bump up
Yeah.
in permits for accessory structures. I
Right.
don't think that's gonna happen again.
Right.
Little windfall.
Right.
But still, and, you know, I'm actually, it seems like I'm getting, you know, the usual amount of people saying, did you know, did you see?
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of eyes and ears out there for
Good.
us.
All right.
the money that you get from the fees that you charge, that just goes into the general fund?
Yeah, the unexpended balance fund. DRA sees it as income for the town and then it goes into that fund.
No way we can change it.
Get elected governor and develop a power base in the House. You just need, I think it's 285 people in your side.
No, I meant, can we change it?
No, it's one of those things where it's live free or die, except in New Hampshire, you cannot do anything the state does not give you permission to do.
And I mean, I don't think it's necessary, quite honestly. I mean, we're never gonna balance my budget
Right.
on the fees. So putting those as a direct revenue stream in here is, I mean, it's valuable to see what money this department is bringing in as a revenue stream, but it's.
Yeah, I would like to try to find a way to offset the increase in salary that we'll end up paying, because the office is that much busier in anticipation of continuing to be busier, but it'd be nice if we could come some way to offset that increase.
Do you know what other towns charge?
Well, a lot of towns have value-based permits.
But they also have occupancy permits and building codes and all this other stuff that we don't have, so it makes it difficult.
Yeah.
And I don't want to adopt it.
And I don't know. I mean, as I said, I could become a building inspector as opposed to a zoning officer, but I think you're going to find that's a more expensive proposition.
Right.
And
Yeah.
not just because, if I had that certification, I'd be thinking.
Well, let me poll you two. You guys think we have enough regulations already? There you go. Okay, so you want to create a new one? No?
I'm actually really happy with doing code enforcement without doing building enforcement.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's something within the umbrella of code enforcement that we can do that we haven't been doing, I'd be more than happy to look at that. If there's a return inspection about something that falls within code enforcement, the way it does with the ZBA. When they say you have to go back and verify the location of the footings to make sure it's right, that's fine. But, I've worked with towns that have, building inspectors and all that. And quite honestly, I don't think we need that. The kind of building that we're seeing and the attitude that most builders have. I mean, I'm always very proactive when someone says, you're not going to come check my electricity, you're not going to do this. I say, no, you're responsible, you need to follow the state codes.
The insurance company might be interested.
Yeah, and it's up to you. You need to either hire a contractor or do the work yourself that you feel comfortable with. Then I say, it's New Hampshire.
So, not to change the subject, but if a person's doing his own electrical and own plumbing, he can do that still?
Yep.
The insurance company may not like it.
You can still do that anywhere,
Yeah,
except Massachusetts. We were doing our own in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And you can do your own in New Hampshire and
And
Vermont.
you can't pump your own gas in New York.
But I know just because I had friends out on Nantucket and worked in the theater out in Nantucket for a while, that Massachusetts does not allow homeowners to do, they may do their own electrics, but they're not allowed to do their own plumbing.
Okay.
So,
Any other thing to the budget? I'm happy to chat.
Well, not
more,
the
but-
budget.
Okay, just to clear that up, are we happy enough with what she's presenting?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a
Okay.
we can change it.
All right.
If your house burns down, you only have a year to replace that in?
it's a 2-year window for replacing a burned out structure. And you can do it, and that's just to guarantee a non-conformity. In other words, if your house is conforming and the location is fine, you can rebuild it at any time. The 2-year window is what allows you to rebuild a structure that's non-conforming.
It's 3 feet from the property line.
Right,
so, yeah,
right.
okay.
You can't be, if it burns down, you can't be forced to move it somewhere else. You're allowed to build it back up where it was.
Yeah, I knew you could build the same footprint, I just didn't know what the time frame was.
Pretty sure it's 2 years. You want me to check?
Okay,
Good enough?
good enough.
Got that motion in your pocket there, Lenny?
I made it.
You made the motion to adjourn? Did you? Okay, we had a motion to adjourn from Lenny, seconded by Lawrence, and all in favor? Aye. All right, thank you, guys.
All right.
A good meeting. Thank you.
Last year was requested $31,621. This year she's requesting $30,335, which is an approximate decrease of $1,300. Don't hold me to the exact figure. Rounding does wonders. Any discussion, any motions? I think she did a very good job of explaining her increases.
You're currently, Deanna, under budget. You have noted from this year, from what was requested, over 5,000 in the budget.
Under budget, 5,900 I got, is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Yep.
For this year.
So we've still got another 2 months left.
So we're good. That'll make us to the end of the year with everything else we got coming up, right? Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or?
Good.
Make a motion and accept the town clerk budget as submitted.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to accept the town clerk budget as submitted at $30,335. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the town clerk's budget of tentatively approving the town clerk's budget of $30,335, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And again, I caution that we are only tentatively approving it until after the public hearing. Tax collector request, 2016 request last year for association dues, $20 this year, $40. Mileage reimbursement, $300 last year, $300 this year. Office equipment and supplies, $1,750 last year, $1,750 again this year. Postage, $2,800 last year, $3,000 this year. That she had spent $2,840 actual last year. Recording fees, $675, requesting $675 again this year. Deputy tax collector salary, last year $8,500, this year $8,825. Tax collector salary, $11,000 last year, requesting $12,000 this year. Record preservation, requested $500 last year, requesting $200 this year. Software support, $2,360 requested last year, $2,250 being requested this year. Telephone, $575 last year, requesting $475 this year. Workshops and seminars, $1,000 last year, requesting $900 this year. The 2016 total bottom line request was $29,480. The 2017 request is $30,415. Any questions or comments? Yes, Melissa.
Could you explain software support? It's a contract with
Avatar.
just Avatar. Okay. Is that for the town?
We have tax collect as well as town clerk software from Avatar.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or comments? I do have to make a comment that I've been working somewhat closely with the tax collector and town clerk over the last couple of years as running the post office. I am very impressed with the organization that Deanna has had and her scheduling.
I couldn't do this job if I didn't become organized. Miss Queen of Organization over here.
But she has gotten us
Talking
to a
a lot.
point where we are in the time schedule set by the state, where instead of just being whenever we felt like it.
Yeah.
I do have to commend her on that. Do I hear any motions?
I make a motion to accept the tax collector's budget as submitted.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second to accept the tax collector's budget as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We are tentatively accepting the tax collector's budget at $30,415 as presented.
Thank you, Deanna.
Thanks.
Thank you.
a lot.
Do you have someone else coming in?
Nope.
That's it?
Yeah, that's all.
Thanks for your.
Great.
It's not mine.
Oh, well, thank you first.
Good night, thank you, have a good evening.
Sorry for making you wait.
Selena, did you forget your,
Your cup.
That's somebody else's.
That's Deanna's.
Thank you.
Queen of organization.
I know.
Thank you, Deanna.
Thank you, you're welcome.
And Melissa had emailed that she had some information on capital improvement.
Thank you.
I'd just like to keep it brief because I've got to get home and eat before 9 o'clock. I got that blood
It
work
won't be,
tomorrow.
I don't think it'll take that long. So after last week's meeting, I was pretty excited about roads. So, remarkably. So I made some phone calls and sought out some information, and today I had a very nice conversation with the executive director at Lakes Region Planning Commission, and who shared with me the program, which is not a new program, it's the Road Surface Management Systems software. And they work in conjunction with DOT and the UNH T2 Center to develop inventories and 10-year plans for towns and their roads. They accept 2 or 3 communities a year. And he said the timing was good. They only have 1 community so far scheduled for spring of 2017. And if Effingham is interested in getting the report done for them, for our town, then really the way to get the ball rolling is for the selectmen to reach out to the planning commission and say, yes, we're very interested in having this done. The reason I wanted to bring it to the budget committee is just to share with you some of the resources that are available to our town for capital planning, the costs that are involved since we're the budget committee, but also to ask if we might support a vote to request that the selectmen write that letter and get that ball rolling with Lakes Region Planning Commission. I had sent you a link to an example of what that report looks like. I just did a Google, this is how I started, I just did a Google search about the program, and I found the town of Wentworth, which is over by Rumney, 950 people, about the same mileage of roads. The only difference is they have a full-time highway department.
Yeah, wasn't that the town, one of the towns you used?
Yes. Yep.
So, since that report was prepared by UNH, working with the Planning Commission for Stratford, that Stratford area, Grafton, and DOT, the only difference is now they've upgraded and improved their software. They've had time to work out some kinks in it, and so they ran a pilot this year with a couple of communities. Everything worked great, so they're ready to take on new communities for spring 2017. The estimated cost to the town, because most of it's paid for with DOT funds, the matching money would be about $4,000 for the town of Effingham.
Total of 4,000, that was a pretty extensive plan.
Yes.
I noticed how they divided up the cost over the 10-year plan that the town needed a budget, and I thought that was pretty awesome. I saw that in there.
And it doesn't just focus on paved surfaces, it focuses on dirt roads as well, and grading and all of the things. So I was pretty excited to see it. And when I heard the cost, in my opinion, for a $4,000 investment, we're getting, what would it cost an engineering firm to produce something like that? Was my first question, and I would have to believe it would be 20 times that much.
Well, we know right now that the select board is looking at over $150,000 for 3/10 of a mile. And the piecemeal roads at that cost is just crazy,
It
in my
def-
opinion.
It definitely addresses my concern that I had last meeting, and that is, I'm hesitant to approve any expenditures on roadways if I can't see the long term. And this really spells out what that long term looks like.
Well, it also took full roads and did a mileage per road, and you all obviously get the cost benefit of doing more miles as opposed to less miles.
Right.
Hammer?
I'm very happy for the report. I know we had one done through the T3 or wherever it was a while back, and one of the biggest problems was, you said they updated some of their software stuff, but one of the biggest problems was a gross undervaluation of what the cost of projects are. The other aspect of it is that when you look at these plans, within a degree of inaccuracy, you can plan ahead. But it is going to require, I think, some significant time with the selectmen and, I'm going to say, the members of the budget committee to sit back there and craft a plan so that, because when you look at what we spend on roads, taking plowing out of it, the winter roads out of it, repairing the roads and all that stuff, it's $400,000 a year we spend on roads. So I'm very happy. I'd love to spend some time with a group of the budget committee, get this report done, and sit back there and say, okay, here's what we need. The first year is going to cost you through the nose because you've got to build up an account. Right? But the other advantage of that being is that when you put out a proposal for a bid on a project, they can't go with the town and say, well, they raised $307,000, so I'm not bidding anything over that. It'd be great, you don't want them to, but it kind of, municipally, you have to play your hand a little bit before you bet. And I find that a bit difficult, but if you had a fund that was set up, a revolving fund, you constantly put this huge amount of money into it, but it's based upon the town's trust that the selectmen are going to follow the plan. Right, and that's going to be based upon the fact is that the prices and the estimates of over 3 years what your inflation, or 5 years your inflation is going to be, and all that. That's pretty tricky stuff to figure out, but I'd love to do it. It strikes me as a very sensible thing for this town to do. But those are the problems involved in it. Selectmen come and go. And it's not mandated that you follow the plan, although if we work with the budget committee and figure out how to raise the funds and stuff like that, and you put it into things, and it's as per plan, because the selectmen could then present a plan 3 years out, 4 years out, which could represent 20 to 50 or 100% of the plan we get from the university. So I've thought about this a lot. I'd like to pursue it more. I think it's a great idea. I'll let Paul go home to dinner.
One of the things I appreciated about it is over the 10 years, there was no big spike. They leveled it out. So it's around $80,000–$85,000 a year for those 10 years to do all of the things that they're suggesting in the plan. So that was encouraging. And then, of course, you have to allow for emergencies or other things. Bridges are completely separate, obviously, so that's another piece.
They had an inflation calculator in there too that I saw.
And they will also,
Sort of.
as you move through that time, you have the supports.
It's an estimate, of
The
course.
software is still available. They have all of our data. They can do adjustments every year to see what the inflation and cost estimates, those will be impacted over the time. Another program that they offer, which I didn't know about, is culverts. They will come in and they will do an inventory of all of your culverts in town and assess the condition of the culverts and prioritize what needs to happen with them and do the cost estimate, the same type of thing, just on a much smaller scale, just focusing on culverts.
You hire them to do that?
Yes.
That's still through the UNH?
Yep, and through the Lakes Region Planning Commission.
Yep.
So,
he said that if you wanted, maybe as a package on a warrant article, because I thought maybe it should go on a warrant article because it's a new thing, but as a package, he said a fair number is $6,000 for culverts and roads to do a whole.
A year?
No, just for the
One
shot. He said you also need to get immediately on the culvert. We want our culverts done list because towns are, they want in. Eventually, the goal is to do the entire state.
Yeah.
So.
Are you aware, is there any way that if you raise funds and you put it into an expendable or into a fund, that fund can be limited to expenses associated to the plan? I'm not asking for a question, it's an answer, it's a question I have, because if you can do that,
You'd have to write that in a warrant article, it'd
Yeah.
become a special
Special
warrant
warrant
article.
article.
And that money would carry over, being a special warrant article.
Right.
Therefore, that's how you have, the only way that I would feel good about that, and I agree with this, I think it's an awesome thing, because like Melissa said in our last meeting, is that, and I too agree that I would feel comfortable voting on something knowing that there was a long-term capital improvement plan that, like you said, selectmen come and go.
Yeah.
But when they sit in that seat, that's binding.
the only way to
That's
spend
the
the
only
money.
way, that's binding via town meeting,
Right.
special warrant article, and how that special warrant article is written and encompasses this plan.
Okay, all
That
right.
says that we're gonna follow this for X amount of years.
Right.
No matter who comes and goes.
Right, all monies expended from this fund must be related to part of that.
Related to that plan and, you know, barring emergencies, but you gotta have some flexibility.
Yeah, chew that for a while.
Certainly, like, our special warrant articles went away when we did road reconstruction, road paving, it became one big kitty.
Right.
At one time, and I still always advocate for that, special warrant articles, that
Right.
the money stays there, it doesn't get from rob Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah,
Depends who's steering the ship, obviously.
yeah, okay.
So, and that all went away back when we were good, the budget committee had good confidence in who was steering the ship.
Right, good.
That's how that evolved.
And they included in this plan crack seal, you know, which roads need to be crack sealed and when, and the cost for that, and grading, which is included in our summer roads contract now. So I think some of the money that we're allocating to separate lines in our budget could actually be combined into the special warrant article that moves the plan forward.
Yeah.
Do you know, like pull some of that summer maintenance out, or I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not up for election this year, but I mean, by this town meeting, I don't think we can get all this worked out, but I'm serious, I would put some serious time into trying to work this out, because I think it's just the way to go.
Well, I think the first step is to investigate contracting with Lake Region Planning and pursuing that study.
Yeah.
And that's gonna take a while for them to come in and compile all the information.
Well, they actually have a lot of the data, because the university came in and did a study before, they may want to come up, and they're gonna ask us, well, what did you meet on it? And the answer is almost nothing. My proudest moment, you know.
It's gonna be kind of a three-pronged attack, Henry. The selectmen, the budget committee, and I think the planning board has to be all on board with this, because capital improvement does come under the auspices of the planning board.
Right. Well, as I said, I'm willing to put some significant time into this with people that want to work on it and figure out a process by which, you know, the money is allocated to the plan and not to a particular, you know.
I think we've learned from the bridge fiascos going on with 3 bridges being redlined, one of them, or 4 bridges being redlined, one of them being closed down, that we have to plan ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first came on the budget committee, I always asked, are we really putting enough away in the town-owned bridge capital reserve fund? Because if something happens, we're not gonna have the money.
Well, yeah, overall, looking at it for a number of years, I'm gonna say that basically because, it's primarily because of what, in my opinion, what the school pulls out of the town is the town raises as much as it can right now. And it's short by about 20% on infrastructure. But I can't see raising that much more money.
But we've also gotta face the hard facts that the roads are deteriorating, the infrastructure in town is deteriorating.
Well, the best thing that ever happened to me as selectman was working for the census department, because I wove all of Carroll County and a lot of the other ones, all over it. And our roads are actually pretty good compared to some.
Well, my joke in Sandwich is Sandwich hasn't met a frost heave they don't like because they keep every single one of them.
It's a state road. That was bad.
Yeah. So do we draft a letter to the selectmen requesting that they adopt this?
And because this involves a capital improvements plan, I'm a little unsure how that works out, but I am starting to attend the planning board meetings. I switched with one of the other selectmen for the Historic District Commission. I'm picking up the planning board, but I can, if at the end of the meeting, Melissa, if I could grab you for a minute to see how this relates to the capital improvements plan, I'm happy to bring it up on Thursday.
Yeah.
Can I? I think, based on my conversations with Mike Azard, the planner at the Lakes region, and the executive director today, just kind of feeling out if we could even fit in this year. It seemed rather urgent. He says ASAP in his email, but that the selectmen send formal notice to them that they want to be on the spring 2017 list to have the road inventory and assessment done. And then the details of how that gets implemented and the money that gets allocated gets worked out between now and then. And if for some reason Effingham just can't pull it off, then they give it to the next person on the list. But the important thing is to get on the list. Otherwise, we're going another year before we could possibly get on the list.
Letter of intent.
So I think, everything else aside, that's what I wanted to ask the budget committee to support tonight, sending a letter to the selectmen asking them to get on the list.
Henry?
If you could email the office with the name of the program and the contact tomorrow, because I come in and do catch-up work here on Wednesdays, I'd be happy to touch base, and then I can bring that up with the selectmen next Monday, because the meeting's on Monday next week.
Okay.
We good with that?
Is that
I'm good with that. We're gonna be in the selectmen meetings anyway, so we can see if that gets.
okay? And I'm happy to arrange my work schedule, which I couldn't do this week, but next week to attend the selectmen's meeting in case there are any questions or whatever. But
Right.
I think it's really important, and I was excited
Yes,
with
Mike.
what they offer.
Some years ago, I'm gonna say about 5 years ago, we had a T2 plan come in on the roads. I don't know if that mirrors this, if there's significant changes to this one. Is there something different now from this than the old one? Because the old one wasn't, as I think you stated, very accurate projections wise. So I'm just hoping there's a difference.
Cost projections,
Yeah, they were not.
Grossly inaccurate.
Yeah. So it was difficult to implement, not that there was any real effort, but even if you tried to follow it, it didn't seem really super practical, that one. Now hopefully they've refined this. And if they have, my other question is, how long ago? Do we have any other towns that are test cases that have been doing any of this? And maybe there's some input to be gained from some other communities that are using it to find out if it's been beneficial. Those are my just basic
I got a copy of the town of Espie today.
Yeah.
They've had it done recently. So that's a community next door that,
Recently,
sorry, I don't know when. But Brad's using it, the public works director over there, to
sure. And
schedule his work, and,
that would
no,
be,
2013.
oh, okay, that's a
Pretty
good
recent,
thing.
and since then they further
That's
refined, because what I was told today is that they took, when they first used to run this program, so they gathered all of the concerns, suggestions, complaints from communities about what worked and what didn't. And then they spent 1.5 years refining
Okay.
how they do it. And then they ran a pilot last year, and it worked out much better, so now they're ready to
Okay, and then
take
my
on
other
some communities
question
next year.
is obviously we're not in the same boat as Espie. We don't have Brad, we don't have a crew, a whole slew of trucks and stuff. So are there any other communities, I guess, that would be similar to ours that have done it, to see how it's working for somebody in our situation?
Subcontract.
And I don't know about subcontractors, because the town of Wentworth, which is
Small
small,
town.
they have about 400 less people, same amount of roads, but they have a 3-person highway department, full-time, with a budget of $440,000 a year.
So that's similar to.
The only thing they contract out is for paving and tree work.
So that would be more of an interest.
But
in me to see
when I
something
heard
was
that-
more mirroring our size and our budget, and see how that works for them. I mean, can you make use of it? It's great to have it, and I'm all for it, but can we actually take advantage of it and implement it financially?
Well, it gives us a scheduled plan, looking at it, of
Gives you a
over a
place to
10-year
start.
period of what we actually need to start
Sure.
looking for budgeting, as opposed to, let's throw $100,000 into this fund this year, and let's see if we can get this short amount of road done, as opposed to doing all the townhouse road at once. It at least gives us a plan to maybe put away, and we can get the bang for our buck by doing a major portion of a road instead
Oh,
of
sure, I think
bits
you
and
get
pieces.
benefit from the
Cost of
longer.
repaving, I mean, I gotta think that the most this town could ever afford to do in 1 year is a mile. The most it could ever afford to do in 1 year.
Yeah, so we may have to put away for 5 or 6 years to do
Right.
do some of the roads, and
Yeah.
just patch until we can get it done.
Right, yeah.
like we did in townhouse. I mean, still gonna
Conundrum
save us
we're in
money.
Yeah.
is
How many
that,
how
you
many
know,
miles
we have
you
using
paved for-
subcontractors.
That's the problem.
Because, you know, they're not only covering their SUTA, FUTA, FICA on their employees and their business taxes, they got reasonable profit and overhead.
That's correct.
So as a town entity, yeah, you've got your investment in your equipment, but after you're keeping a portion of that. It's no different than you tiling your bathroom or hiring a tile guy to come in and
Yes.
and supply the tile.
Correct.
So, you're paying that markup. That is worth something. Because it keeps getting kicked up and around, it has for decades, about putting a highway department together. And at one time in this town, there was a few guys that worked one end of town and the other end of town. But that was in the 60s into the very early 70s.
That's a big expense.
It is a big
You know, you
expense.
got
We're
the
very aware of
insurance, that's the one reason, a subcontractor, they take all that liability. But here again, like Henry stated at the selectmen's meeting, is that now digging does, we're out of their bracket to grade. They allotted a certain amount of time, certain amount of time to grade, and now they can't give us the time because you can't hold a subcontractor to the town. They have other stuff to do. That's one of the drawbacks of having a subcontractor, because it doesn't matter. If they got someplace to go and they can make 10 grand putting a septic system in, they'll go and put that septic system in, then come back.
Right.
When they have time. I was part of that on Pine River Road. I called Eddie Thurston. I said, Eddie, where's all the stuff? He says, oh, we're in Meredith. We're doing 3 septic systems, so that's 30 grand. I don't blame Lawrence for not, picking up and going, because that's 30 grand. And that's the problem with a subcontractor. And that's why this plan that Melissa's talking about is good, because you can kind of adjust time for stuff, and stick, because with no plan, it's a plan to fail. So it's just something that I think is, I like the idea of, and it's cheap money, really. The money that we're spending now to Band-Aid a lot of stuff, it doesn't make sense to me. 200 grand, I don't want to beat this to death, but when you go around and look at the patches, is that all 200 grand?
Well, it's a big headache for our select board, because
Exactly.
they're dealing with bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Instead of just trying to get one major contract.
Correct.
Get it done, get it over with.
Yeah.
They have to handle for a road 10 to 12 different things and
Yeah.
public comment back on those 10 to 12 different things, and it takes up too much time for our select board
Exactly.
to be busy with other things.
Exactly.
When you say a 4-hour selectmen's meeting and 2 hours and 45 minutes of it is just talking about roads, I just feel like this would be such a weight off
Yeah.
our elected officials as well, to have a plan, here we go, this is what we're doing, and move forward, unless there's an emergency, of course, but.
If you can tie the money to the plan, it'll work. If you don't tie the money to it.
It'll fall apart.
Exactly. Well, the select board did put out a plan last year. I have it here. I brought it once I found it, of the roads that you detailed out of what you were gonna do each year, but it didn't actually go into detail that your plan had as far as funding or what you need. It's a lot more in depth. It's better what you have, because it actually does tie it to the 10-year plan, so we can budget correctly to say, this is gonna get all these roads done in 10 years.
Right.
And it's gonna take some tremendous effort off the board, if we can already get everything lined up.
I think the plan that we had in the beginning was we were gonna get one section of town done paved, and it happened to be the Elm Street side. So we got pretty much all those roads done except Jack Russell and West Range was paved. And then we were gonna move this way, toward Mike's house, down that way, and pave. So this way we don't have to send, in the wintertime, dirt roads and blacktop, a lot of traveling, because you can't use the same sand for, you can't put a hot mix on dirt.
Can't grade hot top.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the plan that, we didn't have an extensive one like she's talking about, but that was the plan that we had.
And I'd be happy to share what I found with anybody that wants it. If you give me your email address, whatever, I'm happy to spread the love. But
I like to get that. Actually.
And not unfortunately, but I called the road agent in Wentworth and had a nice conversation with him today. It's been there a while, and of course he led me to grants that are available for small communities who wish to develop a public works department. So that's a discussion for a completely other day.
Yeah.
Yes, it would be.
So,
Well, right now, we've already got,
that's completely,
we've
but,
already got 2 estimates for actually our own town department, which Candia, which I came up with and I shared with the board last year and you got this year. That was $450,000, they're the same size town as us, with just about the same size road. Wentworth is $440, and we're spending about $300. So it's about $100,000 less to do what we're doing, plus we don't take on the liability of full-time town employees, which is a huge thing with insurances,
That's added to that
with
400,000,
retirement.
yeah.
So we're saving a major cost to the town right now by contracting. I mean, it's pretty obvious to me when you look at the figures, and there's just another town in Wentworth of how much a road crew will cost us. We're a small town with no businesses. I mean, you know, we have to look at the total cost, and it just shows that we're saving money by contracting.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
One
You know-
advantage is of having a town department is small repairs get done because you're not gonna have the guys sitting out playing cards in the garage, they're gonna be out working. So these small jobs, these small things that develop into bigger problems that end up costing, it's a measly $6,500 to fix this little thing. Well, our budget's to get particular things done. Every time it rains, it screws our budget up. If you have a highway department, the maintenance, the overall continuing maintenance, it should be vastly improved. But
Which reduces long-term
Right.
degradation.
until you
Big
start
homes.
paying raises to your.
That's the advantage.
Well, I mean,
Having
yeah,
somebody on the road
exactly.
every day.
Well,
no
your town
cheap way to
attorney-
do this.
And look at the new garage Ospie just put in.
Yeah.
I mean, the town warrant article to put that garage in was not cheap.
Yeah.
I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $200,000 for
You
that
gotta
garage.
heat it
And
and all
it
that
gets-
stuff.
It
warrant
was-
article, we're not even talking about that, we're not talking about equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the maintenance and upkeep, it was just the initial, this is what they're spending on their departments.
Yeah, well, there is a grant workshop on big municipal projects. I was thinking of attending next month.
But grants are a good way to look at it because the people that I steered towards you would also
Know
handle
about that,
grants
yeah.
for our highway department.
Yeah.
They have that ability to do that, those 2 people.
Yeah.
So we do have that, you know, value for those grant writers.
and then in Wentworth, they're leasing with option their equipment. Like this year, they paid the
Well,
final,
definitely leasing.
the final on their dump truck, and the next year they'll replace, you know, whatever. So there's obviously, but that's, like I said, a conversation for another time. Just really quickly, it's my understanding that the planning board is going to put something on the warrant to get authorization to do a capital improvement plan.
Well, what you're talking about here is different than the capital improvement plan.
Right.
Originally, I had drafted a capital improvement plan warrant because we couldn't find it, but after talking to Bill the other day, he steered me to it. I found something, then I found the rest of it. So I presented to the planning board in a work session a couple of days ago that we actually don't have to put that on. We can go straight forward to the plan. And part of the discussion, and Rebecca, our zoning officer, Rebecca Boyden, had said they just did theirs at Tamworth. And she said they had a lot of good luck with getting a committee together. And since our planning board hasn't achieved our goals this year, I think a committee is probably not a bad idea. It won't get done this year because a lot of things have to be put together. You've got to meet with all the department heads, you've got to get everybody's idea on going forward. And I've just started, on behalf of the planning board, inviting some folks to be part of this group. There was some talk about advertising for people, but we felt if we target people with certain specific knowledges and such, probably be a little more effective. So that's where we are, is we're trying to form a committee at this point to follow through with the capital improvement plan being compiled and done. It just won't make it this year, time just won't allow for it.
So at some point, we gave authorization by a vote.
Yeah, I don't have that with me tonight, but
Okay.
it was, I'm gonna say probably early 2000s, 2003, something like that.
Because I just saw the RSA today, just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, and that RSA, I had ready to go to authorize the planning board under that RSA.
Alright.
Inform.
Because it's a budget item, the last thing is, in 2013,
Okay, add to that, there'll be 3 of us.
in 2013, the planning commission had sent to the planning board a proposal to help the planning board and the town develop their capital improvement program.
That was a year before I got on, so.
And the cost for that then, which holds today, was $7,400.
Okay.
I mean, just because that's a budget item, I wanted to bring that up. And what he says, the executive director says, is that if there's interest in moving forward, we could revisit this. Lakes Region Planning could also provide you with basic guidance materials for the planning board to do it on its own. However, I would not recommend the board doing it on its own the first time around, but it might work just fine for future updates. So I can email you what he sent, the proposal.
Sure.
Whatever,
When John will hand that in, email me everything, you've got the roads as well. And with that, this week, it'll be a topic of discussion if we can get it in at the planning board, if that's out there. And that ties in with something on budgeting. I don't chair that board, but I'm planning to be here because that night I'll be here for the ZBA. There's a few things I want to put forward as far as forward thinking on those boards for professional lines to encompass things like this. But yeah, I've also dug into our warrant articles. And I don't know if anybody knows it or not, but a long time ago, we started putting away money into a capital reserve fund for the planning board, for the capital improvement plan. I just found that out this week, digging through the last 20 years. And I just talked to Claudia, I think it was yesterday, and we have $14,800 something. So, this, I haven't even shared this with the planning board yet. However, I don't know that the planning board is going to be in favor of going forward with this. The initial thoughts were that there's some small towns, we have 4 of them compiled, and the sentiment was that we could do this. And I believe Teresa Swanek has digitally compiled a lot of it. I don't know where she is with it. She hasn't shared that with me, so.
So there's money specifically set aside for capital
there
improvement
is.
planning, $14,000.
Well, it's not specifically for, it's for land use and planning. It doesn't
Okay.
target the capital improvement, but it's flexible enough, I think, in its wording to allow for it.
It has the word planning in it.
Yes.
Okay, so could the money, that $14,000 fund the capital improvement plan, the culvert study and the road study?
I don't, to answer that.
Because if I could, just real quickly, the roads represent 26% of our budget.
I'm
Our
not,
overall budget, so to me, that's the
I'm
most
not-
important part of the
it's,
capital improvement
planning
plan.
encompasses things like this. In fact, I just gave the board today something on culverts to affirm that it's part of the planning board thing, not that we overlap in that responsibility. So yeah, it falls in my interpretation of the RSAs, it falls into planning. The other part of this, I would say, is we at the planning board are the ones who have contracted for membership. Our dues get paid to Lakes Region. Whereas the Municipal Association is through the select board. So looking back at that warrant, I'll take a closer look, but I think that the wording and everything, I think it would be appropriate to fall under there, and certainly Michael has probably more scrutiny on appropriations than I do, you know, but I'm pretty sure it's flexible enough that we could do that. And again, I'm just one member of the board, so obviously it takes a bigger discussion.
I am gonna do something I very seldom do, even though I'm not technically chair anymore, I am chairing this meeting.
You are today.
I am gonna make a motion that the budget committee will strongly recommend to the selectmen to pursue signing us up for the study that Melissa cited on roads and culverts.
Thank you.
And through that, Henry, maybe Thursday night, we can share this with the planning board, and you guys might initiate contact, but we might be the ones to kind of
They
follow
can't make
through
a
with it.
decision. They can't make a decision for the board right now, it's just gonna do that.
Right, but the planning board might be able to be the ones to actually pursue it. On behalf of the planning board,
Thank you for putting it on
hand
the
it to
table.
you guys.
Yeah.
That'll save your budget.
So, I want to make sure, or that we need to be sure that the budget committee is doing what the budget committee's job is. It's very specific what our job is.
Very specific what our
Right,
job is.
and I don't want to, I would recommend not stepping outside of those lines. If indeed we look at that, if that falls under the guise of the budget committee, then I would support that.
I would say it does because it is developing a plan for how we budget money in the long run.
But we're directing the board of selectmen.
No, we're strongly recommending.
We're recommending.
All right.
Requesting.
There's a
We're
difference.
requesting, okay, I'll go with that.
Yep.
But if that, look at the saying, then I'll get back on that. I would agree, as long as we're in our parameters.
Perhaps you want to word it so that you're suggesting or strongly recommending to them and somehow include the wording with the planning board in there too, because obviously we've discussed, I think it could be a mutual collaboration to get this going.
Where it becomes a capital improvement plan, it's a plan, goes back to what Melissa said, which goes back to the funding that potentially is resting in a capital reserve fund.
Timing's everything.
I think we're just at a point where this town has to start planning ahead more. And we can't afford any more big surprises dropped on us like Granite Road Bridge.
Hey, the red line, for 21 years I've been on the budget committee, the bridges have been redlined for all that period of time, and then prior.
And then, yeah, before that.
Oh, yeah, before that, because they were always, well, this is on the red list.
Yeah, you get a dent on the guardrails, red line.
Yeah, these red flags have been up a long time.
Yeah.
Eventually they're gonna cave in, which they did. So this was a long time
And
coming.
we buried our head in the sand for so long.
Absolutely.
We're caught, and I think it's time that we start looking.
Well, I don't think you buried your head in the sand. I think the townspeople said, listen, it's okay. You know, we'll wait another year.
When I say we buried, I mean the town itself buried its head in the sand. And, we'll worry about it manana, the old manana. Well, manana's here.
Exactly.
Well, to this whole discussion though, again, I think the planning board could and probably should fund that money because I don't think anybody has really realized, and I could be wrong, that that money's sitting there. It was just that I happened to be going back 23 years to the warrant articles and really not traced it. So it's there. And if we don't use it for this, it just sits there.
Right.
Unless some big idea comes along down the road that we're not even seeing yet. So
Okay.
I'm happy to bring it forward.
Yep, good.
And I appreciate your concern about, what our parameters are and what our, and
But as a board, I think we're still within our.
Right, as long as we're within our rights.
Recommend to the strongly recommend to the selectmen that we pursue this and try to get our ducks in a row so we can budget more efficiently and more intellectually than just knee-jerk reactions.
Can I jump in with one last thing here? Different subject you touched on actually, Paul.
Yeah.
And that was the Granite Road Bridge. That bridge doesn't get a lot of use in general versus a snow road or whatever. It's gonna be an expensive job, even if they say $1 million, even if we did it for half, it's $500,000 for a bridge that a lot of people probably don't support. Because of that price and it doesn't get used. I would think it'd be nice if we started budgeting some money off the side for that bridge or for the reconstruction bridge, the account that is there, because we can sign up, because we have that money in there for state aid. State aid, you lock in your time frame now. Right now, it just keeps moving down the road. If we do it now and sign up for that, then 6 or 7 years from now, we can be part of that program, get in there. Because, otherwise, it's gonna be a $200,000 bridge versus $1 million on the face of it. So it might be wise to do that. You're not committed to follow through, I don't believe. You get on the list, but if we're on the list, then we've got that going for us. Even if we get to the point of permitting, you do the permitting's good for 5 years, and if they do away with state aid, they've still paid for 80% of your permitting. And on top of that, this past year, we had the light winter. The state, they bankrolled a whole bunch of money to support state aid. above and beyond what they usually fund. And at this point, they're still saying that was a 10-year out projection. They are guaranteeing, theoretically, as much as you get a guarantee, that there's a 10-year span of support for that program. It's just a thought, because, you know, with all the bridges out there and the dollars, like you're saying, long-term, 200,000, $500,000, $1 million, I'm going for the 200,000 myself.
Yes.
The select board has already voted on that though, and voted with a motion to not accept state funds for that bridge.
Yep.
So I just want that put out there, just so our board knows it.
And I haven't found a program to deal with this, but just give me time.
Why would they cut off your options?
Well, you can always change that at town meeting.
Yes,
It's not just in stone.
but there is a motion,
Yeah,
and
there is
it
a
already is
motion
by,
to do it.
by
You
the
can-
board.
You can
Just so our,
appeal that.
just so our board knows it, that's all.
We can make a warrant article that says sign up for
I mean, it's just like, Mikey found an old warrant article on the bridge fund.
Well, we still have a motion on the table.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We have a motion on the table for the budget committee to strongly recommend to the Board of Selectmen to pursue the roads and culverts study program. Do we have a second? Any further discussion on that?
I'm good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Henry, do you?
Well, send a
accept it?
letter, I mean.
We'll send a letter, but I just,
Yeah.
just so you have it too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David handed me some information that Tom Thompson had given him on 2 webinars. The first one is on Wednesday, November 9th from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. called Asset Management Time Machine. Is it the wave of the future or the bridge to the past or both? Brief description of our local infrastructure is the basic foundation of the health and economic well-being of municipalities across New Hampshire. When cities and towns talk about economic development, it all begins with our local infrastructure, roads, bridges, water and wastewater treatment facilities, and other physical assets. The way we manage the local infrastructure, and then it cuts off. But I just think this could be of some interest to some of the people on the budget committee. The second one is scheduled for Wednesday, December 7th from 12 to 1 p.m. Loan officers from New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services and the USDA Rural Development Office will walk us through the life of a project from concept through construction and into repayment. Presenters will briefly describe program financial incentives and the process of preparing for construction. Does Claudia have this information?
Yes. Well, the second one,
I would recommend, if you're interested in either one of them, contacting Claudia. If she doesn't have it, she can get a hold of Tommy and Tom and get the.
We can get it off at LRPC's webpage too, probably.
They're both on Lake Street Planning Commission.
I believe so. Where he said he got it from. I don't have.
I got it from the Municipal Association's website.
Okay.
Oh.
And just went into their calendar, and that's the 2 that are there.
When's it being held, Paul? When?
Concord.
Their webinars are right off the.
Oh, it's eleven.
Tom said they were both in Concord.
So normally, you can log on with a password that the town has, so we just have to call Claudia to get the password to be able to access the webinar. Okay.
That's in the middle of the day, isn't it?
It's lunchtime, you can have a sandwich and watch it.
Have lunchtime.
Yeah, I'm there. I don't know. I ate chips in my car today.
Do what I have a lot.
I can see
I
I've
grab
got
a
it
sandwich
here.
when I can.
Yeah. Not happening on my schedule.
I would've got that, but
But for those who can,
Those who can, those who have the time, that's
The
nice.
information is available.
Someday I will.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adjourn.
So,
I'll second that.
I heard something over
No,
I
there.
heard something muttering.
so. Our next,
We have a motion to adjourn and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next meeting is on the 15th to discuss, what are we planning on discussing?
15 Fire Department.
Fire Department Emergency Management and Fire Ward.
are the selectmen meeting next week?
Monday.
Monday?
Same time.